I call this meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. Director Crumwoody, would you excuse me out there? This meeting has been called to order. Thank you very much. Director Crumwoody, would you please read our vision statement?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Our vision for the Davenport School District: education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you. Tonight is a special night for a number of reasons. We do have an opportunity to recognize our student board members, and they've been with us during this past year. And we're going to, before I recognize each of you, I'd like to take a moment and give each of you a few moments to talk about really whatever you'd like to, how your experience has been, what you've gotten out of this. We have the three Central student board members are running late because they're at the 12th grade honors night also at Central tonight. But why don't we start with you, Chloe, and just talk a little bit about how things have been.
All right. I'm Chloe from North, and I loved being on the board this year. I learned that there's so much more that you guys have to decide than any of us could possibly imagine, and I couldn't do it, and I give you guys props because it's a lot of hard work, and you guys do it really well. And I think you have a lot of hard decisions coming up, but I think you're going to help out the district and make us even better. And I'm honored to be on the board. It was a cool experience.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Cole from West. I also feel like Chloe that I'm really grateful to, and it really is an honor to be a board member and to be able to listen in and actually be in the process of seeing all the things that affect our everyday school life. I also personally got the chance to see at a state level as well, which coming from the local to the state was a little bit different. But it actually, being here first kind of did give me a taste of what I was in for at the state level. I've been a page, as most of you know, for the past, which has unfortunately made it so I haven't been able to come as much as I'd like to the meetings. But being a page was a great experience, and not something every 17 or 18-year-old gets to do. Just being at the Capitol is just awesome. There's always interesting things going on there, and so I was really personally lucky enough to do that. And so I feel like I've been very blessed this year to be able to get a lot of great opportunities. So thank you all. The representatives and senators' jobs is not done, but they have to suffer without us. But yeah, it's been great, and thank you all for doing what you guys do.
I'm Brandon from West, and I want to thank you guys for having me on here. It's been a really good experience, and I got leadership skills from you guys, and I realized that you guys make a lot of hard decisions, and I am very grateful for being on here, and that's why.
Hi, I'm Andre from West. First, I just want to say thank you because it's a real honor to be on this. I've learned a lot of leadership skills, and I've learned a lot of things from you, and you guys don't have very easy decisions, but I see how you work it out, and that could help a lot of people in life to use teamwork and how to help other things and other situations. So I just got to say thank you.
Hi, I'm Desiree from the Kimberly Center. When I started school board about 5 months ago, I had no idea that I would love it as much as I do. I really enjoyed being able to represent my school. I love my school, and I hope my sense of pride showed the good changes and amazing activities we have going on at the Kimberly Center. The Kimberly Center has been noted as a school for bad kids, and I love being able to come to the meetings and give all the reasons that it is not. I love being able to say that I go to Kimberly Center and am a student board member with straight A's. I very much look forward to representing Kimberly Center again next year. Thank you for all the amazing experience and treating me as a member of the board.
Well, thank you, all of you, and we're going to make a couple of presentations here in a minute, but are there any comments by the board? Director Zamora.
Yes, I want to start out. I've been on the board 16 years, so I've been through lots of student board representatives, and we've had some very good ones in the past, but we've never had a group of student representatives where every single one of them were good, dedicated, interested kids, and you should all be proud of yourself. You were exceptional.
Thank you. Anybody else? Director Sherwood?
Yeah, and piggybacking on what Pat has to say, we're always interested in putting our best foot forward in this district, and you guys really are that. You're our best foot forward. We're real proud of you, and you have made this board better by being here, and we appreciate that.
Anybody else? Director Crumwoody.
Yes. Once again, I want to thank each one of you personally. And, you were giving us credit, but we would like to give you credit because you help us to make some of the decisions that we make. And we don't get student input very often unless we approach you and ask you for input. So we really appreciate the input that you give us or have given us throughout the year to guide us in some of the decisions that we've been making here at the board. So thank you very much, each and every one of you.
Director Kluhl.
I was thinking on the way over here tonight, I was thinking, I'm 5 times as old as you student school board members. And I don't feel like it, but I know that I am, because I look in the mirror and I am. But I'm thinking, I really don't have any idea what it is to be on your side of the board table and what you're thinking. So I'm wondering about what you're saying in terms of the awesome decisions that we've made, and I'm wondering if that's code for something else. But I take it as a compliment, and as Director Crumwoody said, thank you, because you have helped us in making our decisions too. It may not seem like a lot, but having your faces there as we make these decisions reminds us every time we make a decision that it's about you. So thank you.
Director Robertson.
One thing that I want to say to each and every one of you, that I hope that this is one of the things that you are doing in your life that will help you for the rest of your life give back to your community. For me, it's one of the greatest gifts that I could give is the time that I put in here. Because once upon a time, a person called me up and said, I think I want to run for the school board. How much does it pay? And I said, we don't get paid. And then a person said, you're kidding. And I said, no, we don't get paid, and the phone went dead. So I hope that wherever you guys settle, wherever you ended up putting down roots, that you remember that it's all about giving back and helping out your community. And I certainly appreciate you coming. And I know that this year has been long. You guys come, normally we out here by 9 o'clock, and then it's 10 o'clock and beyond. So thanks again for staying. Thanks for participating. And more importantly, I thank you for having an opinion.
Director DeFau.
Being last means that it's all been said at least once before the board table, but you certainly are the face of our school district and what's best about it, and not just for us, but I think for everybody that has been here, observed you, listened to you make really thoughtful comments and participate with us and help us arrive at some very tough decisions, as you said. I do hope you walk away with some sense of the great things that do happen in this district, and for all the turmoil that we sometimes experience, this is one of the best places that you can receive an education. I think we all need to be mindful of that. So thank you again. I really appreciate your dedication and look forward to hearing about great things about you in the future.
Any other comments? The 3 students from Central, Isaac, Anna, and Carolyn, I anticipate coming later, and when they come, I'll try to interrupt our meeting at an appropriate time, and we'll recognize them as well. We don't have a lot for you. We do have a certificate for each one of you, And we'd like you to take your nameplates as well with the little stand. And, maybe you can put it up on your door or something. But let me hand out these certificates. I think, Don, you're going to take some pictures? Desiree. Did I pronounce it right or not?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you very much for everything you've done.
Thank you.
It's been great. Chloe? Well, thank you very much. Everything you've done. We have a certificate for Noah's son. Noah is not here. He left maybe a month ago or so. Yeah, he graduated, and didn't he go to one of, I don't know if he went to the academy or?
He's in the Marines, yeah. He had to go to, what's that called? Basic. I couldn't think of it, but I'll take it for him.
Oh, you'll be able to see him?
I will.
Okay, that's great, because Noah was here a lot, and he participated a lot, too. We want to recognize Noah as well. So. Brandon? Well, one of the things that you guys didn't talk about much is what your plans are after this. And I should ask, but because you've been playing a lot of baseball.
Yeah.
What are you up to?
I'm going to Blackhawk next year to possibly play baseball, and then after that, see where it goes.
Very good. Okay, well, Brandon, thanks a lot for everything you've done. And Aubrey, we missed you a lot while you were over at the Capitol, but that was probably more important than being here.
It was great.
Probably not as fun, though.
Some nights go long.
All right, but thank you very much for everything you did. We're going to miss you, Andre, but appreciate everything you've done.
You're welcome.
And everything that all of you have participated in when you've given your reports. What the superintendent would ask is during one of the reports, all of the students would tell what's going on in their schools. And it's always interesting, informative, and we've always looked forward to it, and we'll miss it now for a few months until we get a new batch in the fall. So thank you very much, Andre.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck. Okay, good luck to all of you, and if the meeting gets long tonight, we probably decided to leave early. So, all right, thank you very much.
And Andre, I don't know if it was noted on your certificate, but you get the Good Attendance Award, too. You were regular.
Also the great smile.
The great smile and good use of technology for your minutes, for your notes. That's good.
All right. Well, thank you again. Student board members, you have been outstanding. But we're going to move on with our meeting. We do have quite a bit going on. We are not going to have a showcase tonight, so we'll move straight into communications. May 14th from 6:30 to 8 p.m., Community Workshop 3 at the Central High Cafeteria. May 21st, 7 p.m., Kimberly Graduation, North High School. May 27th, Memorial Day holiday, we're closed. May 28th, that happens to be a Tuesday. There's a 7 p.m. regular meeting at the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. May 29th, 6:30 to 8 p.m., Community Workshop number 4, Central High Cafeteria. June 2nd, which is Sunday, graduation at the iWireless. 12 o'clock, noon is North, 2:30 is West, and 5:30 is Central. June 3rd, 5:30 p.m., Committee of the Whole meeting at the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. June 5th, 4 p.m. policy meeting at the ASC Executive Boardroom. June 10th, 7 p.m., regular meeting at the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. June 11th, 6:30 to 8 p.m., Community Workshop number 5, Central High Cafeteria. June 24th, 7 p.m., regular meeting, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. June 25th, 6:30 to 8 p.m., Community Workshop number 6, Central High Cafeteria. Next is open forum for community input. We have several requests for open forum tonight. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak should fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. The Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president will set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak during open forum. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community during open forum. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. The board is appreciative of the community's interest in our deliberation regarding school boundaries and open enrollment. We value input that will allow us to make a thoughtful decision in the educational best interest of our students. However, remarks that reflect negatively upon specific schools or disparage the students and staff assigned to those schools will be called out of order, and the speaker will be asked to conclude their remarks immediately. I didn't count these. I'm gauging by the feel of them that we probably have about 30 requests for open forum, perhaps a few more. So we're still going to allow 2 minutes for each open forum request, and I'm going to read off a handful of each of these so you'll know the order in which to come up. You'll come up to the lectern. Please state your name and address for the record. We'll start with Robert Saul, Don Bequeth, Linda Evans, Curtis Wheeler, Ty Cutcomp, Susan Yossi, Megan Farley, Josh Wilski, Jim Young, James Schmidt, Bailey Ortega. Why don't we start with that, and Robert Saul, why don't you lead us off?
Good evening. My name is Robert Saul. I live at 1320 West 60th Street in Davenport. I'd like to address the board on the Harrison Plan B proposal. It must be a good feeling for the board to govern over a school in which families from far and near want to attend. I personally know of 2 families who did not live inside the boundaries of Harrison School, drove their kids to Harrison. One did not even live in Davenport. Also, these are families that did not use the assisted lunch program. I believe investigating these types of students, stopping the open enrollment program, and adding portable classrooms to Harrison, if needed, is a much better solution for the district. To put a boundary right down the middle of 60th Street, where families who live on the south side of 60th Street go to Harrison, and families who live on the north side of 60th Street go to Fillmore, is just simply wrong. Don't punish residents who pay taxes and live near Harrison. I urge you to reject the Harrison Plan B proposal. Thank you.
Next is Dawn Bequaith.
Hi,
I'm Dawn Bequeath, and I live at 2519 North Nevada Avenue, and I'm speaking today on the outsourcing of services for our schools. And as the parent of a 7-year-old that goes to one of the elementary schools here in town, I am really concerned about outsourcing for a number of reasons, 3 in particular. I feel like service will suffer, I feel like safety will suffer, and I feel that relationships will suffer. Service will suffer because we have long-standing custodians in each of our schools that know the buildings, they know the inner workings, they know what to do. If things go wrong, they know immediately what to do. So I think that the service will suffer. I don't think they'll keep them as clean. I don't think they'll care as much about keeping them clean. The second thing, and my big thing, is safety. I'd like to know how I'm going to teach my 7-year-old stranger danger if anyone can come into the building, and I'm supposed to teach him that anybody that pushes the broom is a safe person. The people that work at my son's school have been there for years. My 19-year-old knows them. My 7-year-old knows them. And I think that we would really lose that safety piece if we had outsourcing. Also, relationship would be a problem. If you don't have long-standing members in your schools, you're going to lose that connection that service people can make to the kids. We have watchdogs in our school. We celebrate relationship, but we're talking about taking out people who have formed relationships with the children and with the other members of the teaching team. So I would urge you that outsourcing in our schools is going to lose us more than we're going to save. So please reconsider that.
Thank you, Don. Next is Linda Evans.
Hello, my name is Linda Evans, and I live at 2519 North Nevada Avenue in Davenport, Iowa. I have 3 grandchildren that go in 3 different levels that go to school here in the Davenport Community School District, and I too am concerned about the outsourcing of services, about the safety factor. The biggest thing that I think hurts me when I think about it is the custodians and all that have served these schools well, have kept them running, know the materials that went into them, know how to keep them going. But they've part of the village, it takes a village to raise a child. They're part of the fiber of the children's lives. They see those people every day, have a relationship with them. And I think custodians are more than custodians. They develop a relationship with the children. They watch for nuances in behavior, not out-and-out bad behavior, but changes that might mean something. And I know my one grandson said his favorite person at Wilson was Dan the garbage man, because he saw him every day, and that man made a relationship with him. And with a change in provision, I don't think you'd have the same kind of coverage. The custodians do so much more than just the custodial care of the building. That relationship is important, and not to have those kind of people and to have them outsourced because it's less expensive is a negative. It's a negative idea to put on the children's minds, and they would feel a loss for it. And I would like you to protect our children and keep our staff in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next is Curtis Wheeler.
Good evening. Curtis Wheeler, Durham School Services, 3640 Davenport Avenue. First, I wanted to just take a moment and say thank you for considering us as we put our bid in for the RFP for your pre-K transportation. Some of the benefits I just wanted to point out tonight of considering us and possibly awarding that to us is that our driver pool is experienced school bus drivers. They focus on transporting students only. I think that's something that would benefit both of us, you as a district and certainly us as we move forward. The other pieces of considering us that I think would be a benefit to everyone is that it would be one vendor providing you transportation, one billing consistently. The other part of that is that with these school buses, there are no public unauthorized riders that ride, whereas with the current provider under state code, they can't do exclusive for school children. Anybody can ride that bus. So I think there's some benefits there. And I guess where I'm at right now is that I would just humbly request that if we are going to be considered tonight, that it not be tabled, as it's creating more challenges for us as an organization to order buses, certainly get the appropriate training for our staff. And again, just wanted to thank you for considering us for this opportunity.
Thank you, Curtis. Ty?
Hi, Ty Cutcomp, 33 Oak Lane here in Davenport. On Friday, we reviewed the board agenda for this week and saw that the administration recommends that the superintendent provide a plan to study outsourcing of jobs. I respectfully suggest that the idea to review outsourcing jobs is premature in light of the facts. Recall a few months ago, I addressed the board on the idea of the FMCS interest-based problem-solving training that FMCS provides to interested parties at no charge. Also, over the last few months, Dave Stage and I, one of the custodians, have had conversations with the district about soliciting cost-saving ideas from the custodial department employees and having a joint management and labor committee consider them. We mean zero disrespect to the RAC committee or any other district committee, but we feel the best universe to pull for cost-saving ideas is the employees who actually perform the work. There were 2 custodial department members on the RAC committee, and there are 126 custodians. These custodians have shown the district during negotiations that they're willing to address potential changes in terms and conditions of employment. Larry, you yourself remarked positively about the negotiations tenor a couple meetings ago. We appreciate those remarks. The point being here that there are reasonable steps that the parties should undertake before the district concludes that reviewing outsourcing is the most viable idea to pursue. Outsourcing ought to be a last-ditch effort. Outsourcing is a concept that might be raised after reasonable efforts of cost saving have failed. Here, the contracting out cart is in front of the horse. If nothing else, the last 4 months have shown the district and the board that the custodial unit takes the issue of outsourcing very seriously and has demonstrated the ability to mobilize behind that cause. Let us take that energy and put it to productive use versus spending the next 12 months fighting outsourcing. We have and we will do so if forced into it, but imagine the possibilities if the next 12 months are spent collaboratively versus confrontationally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty. Susan Yossi?
Hello, I'm Susan Yossi at 1354 West 60th Street. I'm here to talk about 2 different issues. Since January, I learned that nurses were also going to be looked at for outsourcing, the school nurses. Spent many months now worrying about what my job, where my job was going to go in the next couple of years. I think it's wrong to outsource. I think school nurses work hard on trying to develop a rapport and get to know the students to give the best care that we can. There's days when we have emergencies and when we have students that come in. It's critical that we know what's going on with these students so that we can do what's right, aim the other students that maybe don't need the severe care at the moment, get them back to the class, take care of the ones that are coming in. I know this is basically for your budget that you're looking at the outsourcing. Well, then last week I learned that the neighborhood that I live in is now being ripped apart, and you want to send these students to another school that these students would have to be bused to. Our students in the district or the neighborhood that I live in are able to walk to Harrison School. I can't see, I've understood that busing would cost about $40,000 a year. I myself make several $1,000s less than that a year. So you're looking at cutting out nurses, but then you're looking at paying for busing for students to a school that they could no longer walk in, that it's one of the closest neighborhoods for these students to walk in right now. I've also, being a school nurse in the office, I see every day after school several students that are sitting in the office waiting for a ride to be picked up. They are not being bused. They're not able to walk home because they do not live in the Harrison School District. So these are just some points that I'd like you to consider tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Next is Megan Farley. Oh.
Megan Early, I live at 1415 West 61st Street, and I would like to speak about the communication of Proposal B, as it were. I guess I probably should say the lack of communication, or maybe just inadequate communication. I know that the first proposal A, if you will, I know when I heard about that, it was widely publicized. It was on the news. They talked about the forums, the public forums, and I went straight to the internet or online to see if our neighborhood would be affected, and it wasn't. Harrison would still be our grade school, the grade school that we chose when we moved into the neighborhood only a year ago. And one of the major contributing factors why we moved into that neighborhood, because we have a young son. So I was reassured that our neighborhood school would still be our neighborhood school at that time. And then I came home last week and I found this on our door. And it just basically says, "We need you tonight." And it didn't come from anybody on the school board. It came from one of our neighbors who somehow got wind of it, stumbled over it, tripped over it. I don't know how they even found out, but we're asking for our support tonight. So he had just found out about it that morning. And unfortunately, we got this at 7:15 at night because we hadn't seen it, even though it was neon yellow, and that was awesome. But it was in our bush, so we were disappointed that we didn't get it till 7:15, and the meeting was slated to end at 7:30. And then I started looking at it, and I thought, wait a minute. Is he confused? Because the boundaries, I looked him up, and Harrison is still our school. So I looked him up again, and he was absolutely correct. Whatever news he had found out that morning, the boundary proposal had changed. At least he had the courtesy to notify his neighbors. I understand, though, that there was some sort of an auto dialer. I and many people that I talked to, we had a Friday night neighborhood meeting. We have cell phones. We don't even have a landline. And I understand that our cell phones aren't public knowledge. So we didn't get notified.
Megan, you're going to have to wrap it up.
Yep.
That's 2 minutes.
So I guess what I would just like to say is, we would appreciate, especially with a decision this large, just better transparency and notifying those that may be impacted. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Megan. Next is Josh Wilski.
Good evening. I'm Josh Wilski, 1322 West 61st Street. I, too, would like to bring up the proposal for the Harrison boundary change. I am a product of Harrison, Wood, and North myself, and over 6 years ago when I bought my house on 61st Street, I knew what I was getting into and had no questions about it, and knew it was a good situation for my future family. Now I have 2.5-year-old twin daughters who are 2-3 years away from school and are being told they're going to have to be 5-year-olds and put on a bus with no one else to supervise them. And you're going to hear from everyone else about their personal issues with this. And I just have a few points I want to bring up. One is there are other neighborhoods that are already being bused, so we don't understand why they're not being considered when everyone here can walk. There's an area north of Kimberly, west of Marquette, that very well is already being bused to Harrison and very well could go to Adams or somewhere else. They're already being bused 1.5 miles away, so that's one option. A second point I want to bring up is I'm under the impression or understanding that there's schools in need of assistance where in the end this just allows certain parents to enroll their kids elsewhere within the district if their kid is going into that school. So if that's an option and then private school is another option, I don't know what this proposal is going to get the district in the end if everyone from our neighborhood goes another way. And then thirdly, kind of what my neighbor just said was the timing of it seems a bit off. If this is something that's proposed for next August or this coming August, all we've heard about this is in the last 2 weeks, and there's no sort of welcome even to the School of Fillmore, none of which any of us really know anything about. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Next is Jim Young.
I'm back. I am Jim Young, 1830 Elmwood Drive, Bettendorf, and I'm a custodian, been here for 28 years. And I just have a few talking points. And one of the things I want to clear up is I've heard several times from board members and other people that there's just a few of us that speak almost every meeting. Well, there's a big reason for that. 95% of our people are working as we speak, and they can't attend. So I'm one of few that are representing everybody as a whole. And I know in the past we've always been part of the decision-making process. When they made the cuts in 2001, which were drastic, we were asked, and we actually made our own cuts where it would hurt the less because we knew more because we worked there. We know every job, we know every building, and we know where we could make the cuts to make the less impact on problems we would have in the future. Then if you guys are looking for permanent savings, this is not the solution. You're going to get savings for 1 or 2 years. That's a given. But once they get their claws in, you guys are going to pay for it in the long run. And then you're going to lose some of your best people that you have now. They're going to be gone because they're going to have other jobs. Because, we're not going to be able to afford to stick around. But, I mean, you guys have a lot to think about, but it's just not the right way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next is James Schmidt.
My name is Jim Schmidt, 18828 Hubbard Road, East Moline. I am a Wilson Little Falcon family member. As a head custodian, I have a cleaning schedule along with the maintenance schedule in the building. I take pride in my work. I am there to help the staff, teachers in any way I can to make their day a better teaching day. I'm there also to help the children any way I can to help them make their day a better learning day. I do not use the words, "This is not my job." There is more to our job than what is on the schedule. I was fortunate enough on Friday to earn the Hug Award. It was a great honor and made me feel real good when 560 students stood up and cheered for me. It is a great feeling to be part of the Wilson family. I hear the statement, making cuts far away from the children as possible. Paras, custodian, nurses, secretaries are all important support staff to the teachers and students. Please consider not only what you will save, but what you will lose by outsourcing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Next is Bailey Ortega.
Hi, I'm Bailey Ortega. I live in the Oak Brook neighborhood on West 63rd Street. There are a few things I would like to say about the possible boundary changes. My family built a new home. We built our home in the place we did because I wanted to stay at Harrison and then go on to Wood and North. Yeah, if I would go to Fillmore, I would still be able to go to Wood and North, but I would have to develop new friends, and so would all of the other kids, which can take a long time. Kids also need exercise. They can walk to Harrison very easily, but not to Fillmore. It can be very dangerous because of the busy streets and it's farther away. When my mom and dad are at work and can't pick me up, I get a ride home from my neighbors. But with the proposal, my current ride home would be going to Harrison and I would be going to Fillmore. There are many times when parents have to help each other, and by breaking up the neighborhood, this wouldn't be possible because kids in the same neighborhood would be going to 2 different schools. So please, don't break up our neighborhood. We should all go to Harrison. Thank you.
Bailey, thank you very much. In fact, I was so taken when you got up there. I don't know whether or not you stated your name and address, so I'm going to. She did? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to read another group here, and we'll get started. Josh Carter, Krista Ringdahl, David Stage, Eric Court, Andy Polmiller, Jason Gravert, Amy Marks, Teresa Walter, Nathan Marks, Debbie Bitterman, and Mark Schneider. All right, let's get started with Josh Carter.
Thanks for having me tonight. Josh Carter, 1314 West 62nd Court. You've heard a lot of issues tonight regarding the proposed boundary change for Harrison School District, and we are one of the families who recently moved into the neighborhood. The catalyst being our children going to a neighborhood school with their friends who they've made over the last year. Everyone in this room went to an elementary school where they shared friendships and memories with kids going to and from school. I think that's something that I personally don't want to take away from the children in the neighborhood, and I know the other families here tonight don't want to as well. If you look in the room, there are families who both attend the the school now. My daughter here, Olivia, her twin brother, Benjamin, standing there, as well as many other kids in the room tonight, will be attending the school hopefully in the future. And there's also many kids who probably grew up in the Harrison School District, as Mr. Wilski said he did. So the proposed change, I think there are many issues facing it. I believe you're well aware of what those are, and you will hear about those tonight. I just hope that you do weigh all the options and consider all the possibilities before making your decision, and I have the faith that you'll make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Next is Krista Ringdahl.
Hello, my name's Krista Ringdahl. I live at 1330 West 60th Street, and this has to do with the boundaries for Harrison. We just moved into our house in September with the knowledge of knowing that our child would go to Harrison Elementary. He will soon be 3. And if you choose for this to go through with the boundary lines, you just sealed my child's fate. They will be going to a private school. You can tell us that we cannot go to Harrison, but you can't force me to stay in the Davenport School District. We will choose an alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Next is David Stage.
Good evening. Dave Stage, 1907 West 3rd Street, Davenport, Iowa. I'm here tonight. Got that agenda on you guys talking about looking back into the outsourcing. And like Ty Cutcom spoke earlier about us getting a hold of the department to see if we could sit down and kind of work out some things before the study, But we get nothing in return. I've been told that it's one way, it's his way, or it's the highway, basically. And I don't believe, Coach, that you're going to allow the team to run that way. I've been pretty darn subtle here lately. But to be honest with you, this is nonsense, and it's not the right thing to do the way it's going. I mean, you should at least give us an opportunity. You believe in these teams to sit down and talk, but not once since these forums and that's been going on have we actually been contacted to sit down and talk with the guys that actually know how to do the job and to save you the money. Before I can remember, I've been around a while, and I can remember where before anything ever took place, we always had committees where supervisor would talk to us and things would get worked out. The last time they looked into outsourcing, they took a lot of the custodians 5, 6 of them in a team, and went to these other schools where they tried the outsourcing. They realized it was a bad idea. Things got worked out. We saved some money. And I believe if you stop this nonsense and actually work with the custodians, the nurses, and the other teams that you are looking into studying to outsource, I believe you'll find some savings, some real savings that are going to benefit not just the students, but also the taxpayers of the city of Davenport. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Next is Eric Court.
Hi, I'm Eric Court, 1409 Meadowview Lane. I hate to admit I'm probably the oldest graduate of Harrison Elementary School back somewhere in the 70s. My 21-year-old now graduated from Harrison, and my 11-year-old is graduating this year. So we're out of that elementary school. However, like many of these people who just purchased houses, that's why we moved into the neighborhood. 7 brothers and sisters go through there, familiar with it. We bought our house there because of that. I just ask that you consider taking up to, I think it's 62nd Court, which is already developed, and maybe taking that neighborhood, leaving it at Harrison, and as you go forward in that development, people will know that that's another school district. They've purchased homes in the area for the specific purpose in many instances to go there. I just ask you to consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Next is Andy Polmiller.
Hi, I'm actually impressed you got my last name right. Everybody usually messes that up. Came here tonight, wasn't going to talk, but 14 years ago...
Andy, I need your name and address.
Andy Polmiller. Today is 5139 Taylor Street, and a month will be Fillmore, 6219 Fillmore.
Thank you.
14 years ago, when my wife and I had our first child, we were in a small house, not in Harrison District. We wanted to move into Harrison District to go to that school. Since then, I've had 2 daughters go through there, going to Wood now. One is going to North next year. I have a son that will be in 5th grade next year. And to our delightful surprise, we have a 21-month-old that we would love to have him go to Harrison. I went to Catholic schools through my whole life. My wife and I would argue about it, on which schools our kids would go to. Well, since she's here, I will say she won that battle. With this change, if my youngest son cannot go to Harrison, I will have won the battle. And for the first time in 14 years, my wife didn't argue with me. And she was a teacher. She is a teacher for Davenport Community Schools. Took her leave of absence since we've had our youngest. I just hope that you guys think about this and you'll vote the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Next is Jason Gravert.
Hi, I'm Jason Gravert. I live at 1102 60th Street. Some of your best supporters over the years have come from the Oak Brook neighborhood. Have you ever considered how much time, effort, money, and resources you will be sending away to other school systems outside the Davenport School District by taking away Oak Brook's neighborhood school? I am another one of those ones that specifically bought a house for that reason. First was the Harrison School, and then it was the neighborhood and how much of a family they really were. And as you can see here tonight, they're a family. Please don't take that away from my family or my Oak Brook family. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Next, Amy Marks.
Hi, my name is Amy Marks. I live at 1402 Meadowview Lane. And the reason I'm here is to discuss the rezoning of Harrison School District. What I would ask or like to remind you is while you're looking at the map of the new proposed Harrison District, that you remember that these streets represent families who have invested in our neighborhood, our schools. You have families who have been, I have been a prior PTA president. We volunteer, we fundraise. Having a neighborhood school is so important to us that we have put our resources into our homes, that some families have extended themselves financially to be in the neighborhood they are because they value their children's education so much. So please, I ask that you decline this, do not approve it, and just remember the families that you're representing. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Next is Teresa Walter.
Hello, I'm Teresa Walter, and I live at 4651 Norfolk Place, Bettendorf. And today the agenda is requiring the superintendent to provide a plan to study outsourcing for the school nurses and custodians. I am speaking on behalf of the school nurses, but feel that custodians are also important to our job and shouldn't be outsourced. I have been a Davenport Community District school nurse for 19 years. We have always had good nursing support and want to say no to outsourcing to protect our kids. I work at the Children's Village West preschool and had to bid out to Jefferson School since my position was cut at the preschool. I can't imagine nursing being outsourced and what effects it will have on our students and families. School nurses should be mandated. Currently, it is recommended that there is one school nurse per 750 students. I love working with children and presenting health education. This month, I am presenting poison prevention from the University of Iowa. School nurses are a vital part of our social, emotional team in schools, and let's face it, schools have had increasing social emotional issues. Many schools don't have a counselor, and the school nurse is needed for resource referral, which I will be doing that at Jefferson. I have a list of over 50 medical problems that my preschool of 288 students have. I have over 50 students with asthma and other respiratory problems. 30 of those students need a nebulizer treatment to be administered when necessary. The expertise of a school nurse in her assessment skills and judgment to care for and support students who can't speak for themselves is very important. We've decreased nursing time to our youngest population at the preschool for our next school year. We not only help sick kids, but promote helping kids stay healthy and staff also. I hope that you will help to protect our kids and vote for no outsourcing.
Thank you, Teresa. Next is Nathan Marks.
Hi, my name is Nathan Marks, and I want to talk about I live at 1402 Meadowview Lane. I'm here to talk about the Harrison rezoning of the district. I went to Harrison Elementary, and my best friend went to there too, and he lives across the street, and we became close because we went to the same school. We walked to school together, we walked home, we did homework together. Without that connection, then we most likely would not have been as good of friends, and there's other kids in the neighborhood that didn't go to the same schools as us. They went to private schools, and I know that I was not as close as with them, and we didn't become that good of friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Next is Debbie Bitterman.
My name's Debbie Bitterman. I live at 1406 West 60th. When our son was 18 months old, we moved from the Adams-Wilson area to West 60th so our son could go to Harrison. I am sure they would have been great schools, but they did not have what Harrison has for us, family. My mother-in-law worked there, my husband and brother-in-law went there, and now my son goes there. There are some teachers that are still there that taught my husband and have told us they were waiting for Kyle so they could retire. We also have a 3-year-old that I hope will have the same opportunity. I am from a small town that only had one school. There is nothing like a neighborhood school. I walked to school every day with my friends and wanted the same for my boys. I knew Harrison was as close to home as I could get. We did not buy our home so they could be bused to a different school. With all the budget cuts, it just seems silly to create more expenses when that money could be used for something else. I am proud to say I am a Harrison Hawk parent and support our friends and neighbors. Please do not deprive these kids and future families of understanding how important it is to have a close community and a neighborhood school. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Debbie. Next is Mark Schneider.
Good evening. Mark Schneider, 1255 West 60th Street. Tonight you've heard many neighborhood testimonies from the true Harrison school community, or a true community. 5.5 miles away from school. They walk to school every morning. They share family time with their children. Now you're talking about busing them 2.7 miles away to a foreign school. We understand. I was in that meeting. I got the same bright yellow pamphlet she had. I went to a meeting at Sudlow last Thursday. Understand there was Proposal A, talked a while back, a few months back, great big publicity and everything. Now we've got till 28th to make a decision. It seems like you've dumped on Harrison School District and Oak Brook neighborhood with a few days for a decision. It's a true community. My kids went there. They're all in college. They come back and they read the kids at Harrison School. They loved Harrison School. They're all in college, out of college even. To take that away, a half a mile walk to school with families, family pet, in the neighborhood together to bus them 2.7 miles at $40,000 extra busing. You have neighborhoods that take buses to Harrison already. You pay $40,000. You're paying $40,000, now another $40,000, $80,000 to bus kids to Harrison and out of Harrison school. Does not make a lot of sense. We don't have much time. So I hope you guys look at all the proposals. Do not forget Proposal A. Go back and look at that too. Look at building temporary shelter, our school rooms. That was brought up at Sudlow. Our kids go to build. I went to school in an outside building of school. So it's other choices. Don't just look at busing our kids away from such a close neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Down to what I would guess is the last group here. James Kroger, Meg Napper, Mike Ringdahl, William Welzenbach, Amy Kennedy, Gabe Knight, Jeremy Collins, Michelle Collins, Randy Zobrist, Scott Anderson, Deanna Gibson, Sarah Anderson, Ryan Kennedy, Joseph Amato, Sally Ellis, Tim Stevens, Jen Knight, Marie Stevens, David Bitterman, Sr., Pat Bitterman, Polly Emmert, and Rebecca Muhammad. We'll start with James Kroger.
It's Jim Kruger, 3283 Jonathan Avenue, Bettendorf. And I retired in January of 07 after 22 and a half years as custodial supervisor. And when I heard about the agenda for tonight, I felt obliged to come up and talk. In 1993, we had a consideration of outsourcing the custodial department then. And as been mentioned, we had a group formed, and it had principals, and it had administrators, and it had custodians. And we went to 3 handpicked by the vendors school districts. One was Homewood Flossmoor High School outside Chicago. We went to West Des Moines in Iowa, and we went to a suburban St. Louis school district and looked over their operations and saw what they're doing. After we got back and after all consideration, our group said, we don't believe this is a good idea for Davenport schools. And I just wanted to, we didn't think it would improve service or save a bunch of dollars. The last point that I wanted to make tonight is we looked at it in '93. It wasn't a good idea then. I don't know if it's a good idea now. But I can say that if outsourcing custodial departments is such a good idea, why are there only like 2 or 3 schools in the state of Iowa that do it? You'd think if it was a tremendous idea, 102 school districts would be doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next is Meg Napper.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Meg Napper. I live at 1410 West 61st Street. And as you may see by my gray hair, I do not have little kids, but I do live in the neighborhood. The concern I'd like to put before the board tonight is one of property values. We chose to build our home in Oak Brook for a reason, and I think you've heard it. We wanted our children to be able to walk to school if need be. If the board chooses to divide Oak Brook, I see us having a more difficult time selling our home since it will go from a walking elementary school neighborhood to putting little kids on buses. Because I don't know if you're aware, but there are no through streets from Oak Brook to Oak Brook North. There's farm field there. There's nothing there. At the end of my street is a water retention project. That street will never go through. So the kids have to go down and around. We're making a mess. We have a 2-story family-sized home that I'm not going to need in about 7 years, I hope. The busing comes from the fact, no through streets. When looking for our first home, we went to Bettendorf. And we're standing there with the realtor in this beautiful home. I look out the back door, there's the elementary school. And I looked at the realtor and I smiled and I said, oh, the elementary school's in our backyard. What school is that? And she said, oh, well, this is Bettendorf, and we can't guarantee that your children will attend that school. And my husband and I said, thank you very much, and took ourselves and lived in Davenport for that very reason. It's absurd, and we believe this choice to split up our neighborhood would also be absurd. The extra cost in busing is not logical when we are being forced to make huge cuts. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Next is Mike Ringdahl.
My name is Mike Ringdahl. I live at 1330 West 60th Street. I'm here to talk about the Harrison proposal. I'd like to give you a little bit of our background. I grew up in Northwest Davenport. I attended Fillmore as a child, and I went to Wood, where I met who is now my wife 20 years ago in the Wood Junior High cafeteria. We went to North together, and back in 2005 we had the opportunity to move. So we took the opportunity and we moved to South Dakota. 7 years ago, then we moved back here about 1.5 years ago. Moved in with some family members, and until we found the right area for us, that's why we chose this neighborhood. That's why we chose Harrison. We have friends there. We have family there. We have people there who care, and this is the reason that we chose that district. We don't want you guys to take that away from us. We moved in this house back in September for that purpose, so we could send our son, Mason, who's going to be 3 years old, to Harrison with our friends, their children, and his cousins. You know, you see the people that are here in this room tonight, and I just want to commend some of the families that are here. They're grandfathered into this. They don't have to be here. They have no obligation to be in this room tonight. But it just shows you the values and the strength that they have, that they're standing in this room fighting for what we want, for what they want, for our children. You know, we have the choice. We had the choice when we moved back to go to any school district in the area. And we chose the Davenport schools. We wanted to raise our son and future children in the Davenport schools where we grew up. We feel that's important. You know, we didn't go to Bettendorf, we didn't go to Pleasant Valley or North Scott. But this happens, we will make that choice, and that will happen.
Mike, your 2 minutes are up. You got to wrap it up.
Okay. This isn't about Harrison versus Fillmore. It's about my kids not building lifelong friendships with their neighbors by attending the same school together. It's about taking a bus when they could walk to another school that's closer. It's about what makes me want to stay in Davenport and in Oak Brook and add the strength and stability of the great Davenport neighborhood. It's about not creating a scenario where kids on the same block would otherwise be best friends end up not being friends at all because they go to different schools, have different classmates, different experiences, and different school functions and programs.
Mike, I'm going to have to cut you off. So, okay, thank you. Next is William Welzenbach.
My name is William Welzenbach. I live at 5709 Vine Street. I'd like to talk about the Harrison restructuring. I've lived in Harrison School District for 35 years. I sent 3 daughters to Harrison and Wood and North. 2 of them later moved into that district. They have 5 children, and they're sending them to Harrison. My 3rd daughter, who went to Chicago for a job, came back specifically to start her family and live in Davenport. And she also chose to live in the Harrison School District, 5 doors down from my other daughter. That was 6 years ago. Now, when their children are 5 and 3 and just ready to start going to school, they will be bused to Fillmore. So I just want to talk about the traditions that are at Harrison. There's great traditions there. We have the family fun night, when they have the shows on the outside in the summer, dad-daughter date night, just a lot of good traditions at Harrison that my children and my daughters want to continue with. And then I want to talk about the neighborhood a little bit. Because of all the functions I go to, I can look around this room and I see 5, 6, 7 adults or parents that coach or help coach either soccer, baseball, softball, basketball. They're really involved. This neighborhood's really great. And that's what you want in a community. You want a community where the parents are involved. And that's what this community is like. This area of Northbrook or Oak Brook is like that. And I think they deserve to stay in a community like that and attend Harrison grade school and not be bused to another state. I just ask you to maybe think about grandfathering these streets in so they can all go there. So let's just save this community, this great neighborhood. Keep it intact. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Next is Amy Kennedy.
That's how we feel about the boundary change. Sorry. I'm Amy Kennedy. I live at 1412 Meadowview Lane. And I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. That was just my dad who spoke. He got the ages a little wrong, but that's okay. I went to Harrison Elementary as a child, and then also Wood and North. I went all through school with Larry Roberson's daughter and son. We have many friends, many memories, and that's what I wanted for my kids. So my husband and I moved back to Davenport 7 years ago to start a family, specifically. I had a great job there, so did my husband, but family's huge to us. We moved to Meadowview Lane, the same street that my sister and her kids live on, so our kids could attend Harrison with their cousins. If this proposal goes through, my kids will be bused to a school outside our neighborhood, while their cousins who live 6 houses down will continue to go to Harrison. It tears my heart to think that my sister's kids will be involved in activities and school functions with the whole rest of the neighborhood, and my kids will be forced to miss out. This will absolutely change their lives and our relationships forever. Additionally, Is it not part of the First Lady's agenda to decrease childhood obesity? So why do you want to bus kids who would walk otherwise? Not only are you busing kids that could walk, but the school district wants to spend taxpayers' dollars to create a new bus route. It just does not make sense geographically or financially. Please do not use our kids as pawns to correct a mistake that was made years ago with open enrollment. I appreciate your time and consideration. I truly do. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Next is Gabe Knight.
Hi, Gabe Knight, 1326 Meadowview Lane. You know, we feel, and I'm here to address the Harrison boundary, just in case you didn't know. We feel like we are some of the district's and the city's biggest cheerleaders. What better testament is there to a school district and a city than when a young family with options chooses to scrimp, save, and sacrifice to move into a neighborhood in your city just for that school? We all chose to live in this neighborhood so we could go to Harrison School. Many of us were probably told about Bettendorf, PV, or private schools by our realtor. But we chose our neighborhood because we wanted our kids to go to Harrison School. We feel like we should be the first place you visit when you're trying to convince someone else why they should choose Davenport schools. In fact, many of us moved into this specific neighborhood because one of our friends told us what a great neighborhood and school we had. There's at least 3 second-generation Harrison Hawks that live in our neighborhood. This proposal makes us wonder if any of you have ever been to our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is working. Our school is working. Why would you want to break up such a good thing? We're what's right with your schools. We've all made sacrifices to live here. We've worked hard and built a community around our school. We support each other, participate, coach, volunteer, fundraise, show up, and always have each other's back. We don't want this fight. We didn't choose this fight. A lot of us haven't slept in the 5 days since we first found out about this. But if you want to know how great a force of good you're dealing with, look at all we've done in those 5 days to protect our neighborhood and the school that rests so close to it. We've rallied, we've signed petitions, we've banded together and started a movement. We won't go away. Our soul is in our neighborhood and our heart and kids are in that school. We just want to be left alone, to live in our neighborhood and have a neighborhood school our kids could walk to like we were promised when we invested in our homes. We don't think we're asking for anything that's unreasonable. As a school board and a superintendent, what more would you want than a neighborhood of good people that say to you, we'll build up your schools, we'll support your community, we'll participate, and we'll do our part to raise a child that'll make us all proud. Please reconsider the Harrison Scenario B proposal to take this away from us. This proposal is just plain wrong.
Thank you, Gabe. Next is Jeremy Collins.
My name is Jeremy Collins. I live at 1250 West 60th Street. My wife and I invested in Oak Brook 16 years ago because of the schools that our children would attend, Harrison, Wood, and North. We made that decision for our family because we wanted to live close to our neighborhood schools. In addition, we wanted to make a good home for our growing family, a home that our children would complete their schooling in, and a home that someday would provide a return on our investment. I'm sure you would agree this is something every family strives for. With the revised boundary change, our dream of living in a community with neighborhood schools is in jeopardy. This is why we chose to live where we do and make the investment we did. The hurt runs deep that the board would consider dividing our neighborhood and breaking up our community. We understand that the board needs to have a more balanced, diverse mix of of families within certain schools. But why at our expense? Keep the community we helped build together. The board has expressed that the plan will not fully have an effect or make a difference for the next 4 to 5 years. If that is the case, why not consider moving the boundary 4 blocks to the north where it is currently proposed? This would exclude existing Harrison families and their homes. Allow the future growth north of the proposed boundary over the next 4 to 5 years to fulfill the diversity and enrollment plan for Fillmore. Busing students to and growth and development at Fillmore could be placed in the budget rather than slammed together thoughtlessly, or at the expense of cuts within the district to allow for the diversity plan. The families in the new development would invest just like we did in the new community and their school, Fillmore. This is a better plan than dividing a neighborhood school and an established community. 4 blocks seems like a small concession to ask the board, but one that would pay great dividends with the board's plan for a more diverse community at Fillmore. So I asked the board, what if?
Thank you, Jeremy. Next is Michelle Collins.
Hi, I'm Michelle Collins, and I live at 1250 West 60th Street. I am both a teacher and a parent at Harrison. I am concerned that Fillmore doesn't have enough room for our neighborhood. Fillmore currently has 4 sections of kindergarten and first grade. This year, Harrison had to take at least 4 of Fillmore's kids due to balanced enrollment because Fillmore was full in first and second grade. It makes me wonder if the 73% utilization number Fillmore currently has is correct. I also think we need to address how many students actually belong to Harrison. We have students that tell us they are tardy because the traffic on the bridge was bad. We made a home visit this year only to find out that the child hadn't lived there in 2 years. He lives in the Jefferson Edison district. We had a student that was involved in a fire. We read in the paper that his apartment was located in Bettendorf. Last week, the Quad City Times had an article in the paper about a Harrison parent, and his address was listed, a Buchanan address that doesn't match the address we have in the office. I know of at least 6 other students that are not Harrison residents but are using babysitters or grandparents' addresses. We know this because the children tell us. We need to have all parents provide a proof of address when they register in August. Even Little League requires a proof of address when they register each spring. Currently, students just need to provide an address at kindergarten roundup, and then they don't have to show it again. So even if they move, they just don't notify the district. I wouldn't care where these children go to school, except that it is pushing my neighborhood, which is within walking distance, out of Harrison's limits. It's allowing the people to cheat the system to win, and the rest of us who are following the protocol to lose. Something doesn't seem right about that. Please require proof of address at registration in August and see where the numbers shake out before you change Harrison's boundaries.
Thank you, Michelle. Next is Randy Zobrist.
Good evening again. Randy Zobrist, 3505 Wisconsin Avenue. I'm here to request the board's reconsideration of recommendation to award a contract for transportation service for early childhood students with disabilities, which is your agenda item 7H. As I've mentioned before, the RFP did not indicate a school schedule for bidders to use. Riverbend Transit has provided both 9-month and year-round transportation for Davenport schools, depending on the particular programs that were running that year. Some years we provided 9-month transportation for the 4-year-old program, other years we didn't. School administration may have assumed that Riverbend would be bidding on year-round transportation, but that's not necessarily the case, based on the varied schedules and the programs we have provided for the district. In addition, a letter from Dr. Tate and other administrators dated April 23rd, which was just a day after our last board meeting, that was addressed to Children's Village families. Changes in year-round program for special education students was going to a 9-month program beginning July 1st. Does this effectively mean that year-round transportation services for these programs are not required next year? 9-month, 1 year? Nothing in the RFP identified either one of those. The lack of school schedule specifics in the RFP, combined with the recent significant changes to the future school schedule, does not provide the district with accurate cost proposals for next year. The transportation dynamics and the needs of the district have changed drastically. Riverbend Transit respectfully requests that the board reject both RFP responses, issue a new RFP with more clearly defined scope of services, including the intended number of students to be served, and a more accurate 2013-2014 school calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Next is Scott Anderson.
Hello, Scott Anderson. I live at 1313 Meadowview Lane, and I'm a parent of a Harrison Elementary student. And as you can tell, most of my neighborhoods here, we really don't think you should move the school boundary line. So I'd like to summarize some of the options to make sure you at least have our ideas. I mean, you go through and look at your website, it said you guys are trying to promote neighborhood schools, you're trying to get kids closer to school, you know, in our case, walking distance. You're trying to balance enrollment across schools, and you're trying to lower costs through efficient transportation. You know, three of those kind of wash out if you look at what you're going to do with our boundary line, because you actually move the ball in the wrong direction. The one I suppose you're looking at is balancing school population. I think you have a couple choices. Michelle just talked about, you know, we all hear from school administration, from other families. I coach a lot of teams. I hear from the kids. They don't actually live in our district. So I would be in favor of you guys actually requiring more proof of being in the district in August. Secondly, it seems to be there's a lot of construction that's going to happen north of us, and those people aren't probably going to fit in Harrison with its current enrollment levels. So maybe move the boundary line up to there, and as those families move in over the next 5 years, be transparent. They can choose which neighborhood and which school they want to be a part of, as opposed to we already chose and that's being taken away from us. And lastly, look again at places you're already busing from. I mean, I can tell a focus with outsourcing and other things today, you guys are having all kinds of budget issues. And adding a bus route to our neighborhood just makes no sense. So I appreciate your consideration and time tonight, and hope that you guys do not vote for the current proposal B boundary change. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Next is Deanna Gibson.
Good evening. I'm Deanna Gibson, 1323 Meadowview Lane, and I'm here to discuss the topic of transportation as it relates to the proposal for moving boundaries. On your website, you have listed a question and answer section, and it's entitled "Why We Are Considering Changing the Boundaries." And one of the answers you give, and I quote, "to allow students to attend the school closest to their home and to maintain a logical pattern of school assignments." I find that boundary proposal that we're discussing is kind of a contradiction to that answer, as Fillmore is roughly 2.8 miles from our homes as compared to Harrison, which is only about 7/10 of a mile in most of our cases. Our children would obviously at that point need to be bused to Fillmore, whereas Harrison right now, they have the option to just walk. When viewing MapQuest, this is another point, the route to both of these schools I'm mentioning here, you will find that the driving distance from our neighborhood to Fillmore, as I mentioned before, is about 2.7, 2.8 miles compared to the original boundary proposal that you originally gave us for sending, the village, Kimberly Village kids to Adams School, and that was 1.5 miles. So in that case, you, at this point, I believe, have decided not to approve that change. So why not approving that change, would you go ahead and approve the change for our school district, which is obviously a further distance away? And obviously it wouldn't give our kids a chance to go to the closest school to our homes. Another reason you mentioned, another point that you mentioned on the website is about changing the boundaries. The purpose of doing that is to save funds and have a more efficient transportation. And honestly, we don't bus our kids now, so by changing this proposal and making our kids go to a different school, they would now have to be bused, which would cost us more money. As a taxpayer, I'm going to say that I think that would probably be an unwarranted expenditure, and it would be a waste of some of my hard-earned money, and I think we just need to look at a little bit of those points going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Next is Sarah Anderson.
Hi, I'm Sarah Anderson. I live at 1313 Meadowview Lane. I've lived in my house for 12 years. Like the other families in our neighborhood, my husband and I saved money, and we purchased our house knowing that our children would attend Harrison, Wood, and North. We are a neighborhood that is proud of our school, kids, and community. Our neighborhood school is Harrison. Like all of our parents, we want what is best for our children. We teach them right from wrong and hope they use common sense when faced with a difficult task. We help out when called upon, whatever way we can, so that our children have what they need to be successful adults. You have heard multiple times from us that we are proud of our neighborhood and the community that it has developed around Harrison Elementary. One example of how this partnership works between our school and the neighborhood highlights our aspiration to retain a neighborhood-based school. We have countless instances where people living in our neighborhood have stepped up and helped make our school more successful through school involvement. My list is just a small example of the blood, sweat, and tears that the families in my neighborhood contribute to my school. Here is my list. There are Girl Scout leaders, Cub Scout leaders, classroom volunteers, junior achievement volunteers, many are lunchroom volunteers, and we even have a former PTA president among us. There are Little League coaches, youth basketball coaches, softball coaches, and soccer coaches, many who coach multiple teams at the same time in multiple sports. My list is not complete. It is just an example. It is pretty amazing what our neighborhood does to your school in return for how successful the school makes our children. It's a give and take. When we take on these leadership positions, we all help the children that attend Harrison, not just our own. We help make Harrison the great school it is. Please don't take it away from us and our children. It is the combination of a caring neighborhood and a successful neighborhood school that make this achievable. I am asking you not to vote in favor of Proposal B boundary change. There has to be a better way that makes more common sense without hurting innocent families and wasting so much money on busing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Ryan Kennedy.
Good evening. I'm Ryan Kennedy. I've lived at 1412 Meadowview Lane now for 7 years. I'm the father of a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I do appreciate that you all have very difficult decisions to make, but I do feel this boundary change will be counterproductive. Do you know why Harrison is such a good school? The reason's right here. And for those of you who are here to support stopping this boundary change, I'd ask you to stand up, raise your hand. If you've been standing for 90 minutes, maybe shake your legs out a little bit. It's our families that make the school great. Families that not only care about their kids' education, they fight for it. It's 165 personal signatures on this petition that we started on Friday night. It's 260 plus signatures we've gotten on this online petition that started on Saturday night. We're only 7 streets, but our outcry and uproar is the size of a small town, and we're just getting warmed up. We are connected to Oak Brook. Oak Brook is connected to Harrison. This should never change, ever. Not now, not for kids going to school next year, not for the kids who will move to our neighborhood down the road in the years to come. We have something special in Oak Brook, something every neighborhood and every school should be so lucky to have. Now, I realize you may be sitting there thinking, Fillmore could sure use some of that. The problem is, the few families this is going to affect, they're not going to go to Fillmore. It's a fact. Splitting us up will not only hurt our experiences as parents and students, but it will damage our awesome neighborhood community as well. All you're going to do is make both schools weaker. Now, do you want these passionate, involved, influential people working for you, or do you want them working for JFK, Assumption, and other non-Davenport community schools? These petitions, all the countless emails you've received over the last 7 days, I'm sure we're driving you crazy. All these people standing before you today, say it loud and clear. Please leave Oak Brook intact. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Next is Joseph Amato.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe Amato. I live at 5601 Eastern Avenue, apartment A7, and I'm on here on behalf of the Coalition for Fluoride-Free Quad Cities. Our goal is to educate the public on the hazards of water fluoridation and to build an effective coalition to convince the Davenport City Council to cease this outdated practice. We come to you, leaders working for our children's best interests, in the hope of gaining your support on this important issue. We have prepared an information binder for each of you that's on your desk in front of you, containing the latest science on the harm fluoridated water poses to children's dental and mental development. The Center for Disease Control says that 41% of 12 to 15-year-olds suffer from dental fluorosis. Dental fluorosis is the body's visible indicator of being toxically overexposed to fluoride. We know children are overexposed to fluoride. We can see it in their smiles. What we can't see is what it's doing to their developing brains. Harvard published a study just this last October validating 26 separate studies showing that fluoride overexposure via ingestion of high fluoride water significantly reduces children's IQs. We applaud the school board's goal to actively lead the district in ensuring that every student excels to the level of his or her ability. We ask that you review the supplied binders so that you may decide to join us in requesting a halt to water fluoridation, which needlessly handicaps the learning ability of our students. Thank you in advance for your consideration. We will respectfully request your feedback and as an agenda item for the next school board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Next is Sally Ellis.
Thank you, Board. Sally Ellis, retired head custodian, 33 and a half years, as you know. I think this outsourcing study is a waste of your time and money because we've already done it, as Mr. Kruger had stated. I was on that committee, I've told you that. And you've got the pictures. Please look at that poor cleaning, again, from them 3 companies. I called West Des Moines, and they eliminated the contract cleaning. And the person that had initiated it is no longer working there, and it's in-house again. Now, you tell me why. Outsourced companies tell you it's the same for less. Reality is less is really less. Constant turnover of strangers will be roaming our schools, teachers' closets, desks, files with master keys. Lose them, take them, get more made, you won't know it. Instead of new locks and doors, just install a revolving door at each building. Your control is gone. Companies is their boss. Their background and their appearance is up to them. You're going to have more illness, accidents, complaints, higher energy bills. I hope you've had a chance to look at that award that we received from Des Moines for our energy savings that I passed up there. We've saved a lot of money, the custodians have, over the years on energy. They've even offered you this time around to take no raises. That's how much they care for the kids and the safety and the health of the students and the teachers and the parents. These jobs are their careers. Your only product is successful students. Children of the taxpayers own the schools. Why would you jeopardize their safety and health? Your custodians are the fabric of the schools. I always thought the mission statement should include a safe, clean, healthy environment to enhance each student's abilities. If you do this, you could never add that to the front of your mission statement. You've seen the pictures. It's not healthy. And I just want to say, too, that I have great fear for the special needs students in the district if you do this. The custodians, myself, all the years that I worked, we always went the extra mile for those special need kids, and you're not going to have that if you outsource it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Next is Tim Stevens.
Hello, Tim Stevens, 1036 West 60th Street. The proposed boundary changes to the Harrison Elementary School District will hurt the district. The community school website lists 3 reasons for boundary change: to allow students to attend the school closest to their home and maintain a logical pattern of school assignments, to promote identification with the neighborhood school, to save funds by having a much more efficient transportation system. I agree firmly that these are valid goals, but the boundary change proposal would increase spending, disrupt identification with the neighborhood school, and prohibit children from attending the school closest to their home. The cost of adding a new bus route alone should be reason enough to scrap this plan, let alone the fact that it creates an illogical route busing children out of a neighborhood when other students are being bused in. How do you explain this inefficient process to taxpayers? The negative consequences don't stop there. I believe that these boundary changes will cause a drop in enrollment. Davenport schools get a lot of support from our neighborhood. There are many active parents who contribute countless hours to fundraisers, sports programs, Girl Scouts, classroom volunteers. I am a Cub Scout den leader myself, and the list goes on and on. Many people in the Quad Cities have given up on the Davenport Community School District. Our neighborhood is full of parents who disagree with your critics and have put their time, money, effort, and talents to work to build up a Davenport public school that many others in the QCA would not have given a second chance. Your proposed boundary changes would cause many people in our neighborhood to reconsider and take their support to another school system. A drop in enrollment would cost the district not only financially in the loss of government funding, but also through the support of some very active parents. This boundary change proposal should be dropped because it will be extremely costly to the district in both dollars and community support. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Next is Jen Knight.
Hello, my name's Jen Knight. I live at 1326 Meadowview Lane. I'm here to talk about the boundary change as well, and specifically how it was communicated. It really felt like the district was trying to slide it by without drawing too much attention. I think the district, you did a great job of advertising the fact that there was going to be boundary changes. However, I was led to believe that the first proposal was still on the table. I never heard any differently, and neither did my neighbors. Many had assumed that the school board was still discussing the proposal from February. It just seems like so much more media communication was done for the February boundary forums. When I listened to the auto dialer, it addressed Alice first, and then it mentioned the boundary changes as if it was a minor topic. It just stated that Harrison and Fillmore boundaries were still undecided. It didn't say anything about there being a whole new proposal. This makes our neighborhood feel like we are not important and that the school board just figures that it's no big deal. We think it's a real big deal. Come to our streets, we'll open our house to any of you. We'll show you why this proposal makes no sense. When I saw the proposal, I thought, these guys couldn't have been to our neighborhood. However, we do, as you see, have a really big voice. We have the big voice because we care so much. We, in fact, are the families that can build up the Davenport Community School District's reputation through our passion and participation. But you are knocking us down by taking our neighborhood school away from us. I went to Harrison and have been so excited that my kids are going there now. I always talk highly of the district as a parent and a teacher in your district, but now I do feel betrayed. Communication is the key to any successful relationship. In this situation, it doesn't feel like the school board communicated this new proposal in the way that it should have done. In fact, I know several principals that didn't know about it, and they're the leaders of our schools. We are the families that put trust in you, and it feels like trust is being ripped away from us. We just want what's best for our kids. They love going to Harrison and feeling part of a strong neighborhood community. We won't go away, so look at what we've done over the last 5 days alone. Please reconsider your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Next is Marie Stevens.
My name is Marie Stevens, and I live on 1036 West 60th Street, and I'm also here to discuss the Harrison boundary changes. I have two boys, one in second grade at Harrison School and a 2-year-old that will have to go to Fillmore School because his brother will already be out of Harrison School when he begins, unless if I want to send him there when he's 4 years old. At the meeting last week at Sudlow, Dr. Tate told us one of the main reasons for this latest boundary change was to ensure socioeconomic diversity in our schools, no matter the cost. Based on test scores, the diversity is based on test scores and who receives free or reduced lunches. Have you, the board members, really taken a look at how diverse we are as a neighborhood? We consist of many hardworking people, single-income families with stay-at-home moms, UPS drivers, nurses, teachers, several small business owners, military families, City of Davenport employees, and the list goes on and on. I know for a fact that at least one family would even qualify for reduced school lunches if you want to get technical about things, because my family does qualify. We chose not to participate in the reduced lunch program because we'd rather see tax dollars used in areas of greater need. Spending tax dollars on a bus to send our children to a school nearly 3 miles away is not what we consider an area of greater need where tax dollars should go. Switching children around like pawns in a chess match is not an effective way to improve test scores of existing kids at Fillmore or our kids that would switch to Fillmore. Our kids would be isolated from friends in our neighborhood and new friends at Fillmore. In fact, I can almost guarantee Fillmore's scores would drop even further due to overcrowding, exhausted teachers, and stressed out kids. You were elected to this board because people believed in you and your ability to make sensible decisions for our schools. Prove to us and our community that you can find a better solution. You have been given plenty of suggestions tonight that will not affect families already in our neighborhood. Please reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marie. Next is David Bitterman, Sr.
Good evening. My name is David Bitterman. I live at 405 Westerfield Road, and these were fantastic speakers. We bought our house over 50 years ago at Harrison School District so our children would go to Harrison School. When our first son came to Harrison School on his first day, I was standing at the door of his room, and this big guy came up, Joe Kusatz, who was the principal of the school at that time, stood alongside of me and started talking about Harrison, getting involved, and making things happen. We were reassured Harrison was the right choice for our children and their future. To this day, both of our boys talk about the memories at Harrison regarding their friends, their teachers, their principals, and all the support staff who wouldn't let them throw snowballs. It was also important to our son and daughter-in-law that they buy their house in Harrison School District so their children would have the same wonderful memories as Brian had. Their values are very important to them. If only walls could talk at Harrison, I'm sure the conversation would go something like this. Say, do you remember Charlotte Korch Sackler when she opened Harrison School attending 4th grade? Yes, we do. Well, David and Brian Bitterman are cousins of hers who also attended Harrison School. And now Kyle Bitterman is attending Harrison School, the son of Debbie and Brian. Ian Bitterman will be there in 2 years, and the school just can't wait. That is, if the boundaries don't change. In closing, I would like to use the great words of one of our great documents. We, the people, are talking. We hope you are listening. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next is Pat Bitterman.
I'm Pat Bitterman, and I live at 405 Westerfield Road. I worked at Harrison School for 27 years. I'm now retired. There are a lot of students at Harrison because of babysitting in our area. We knew there were students that shouldn't have been at the school at the time I was there. However, I was always told as long as the babysitter was in the district, we couldn't do anything about it. There were 3 in my neighborhood alone. We knew why they picked sitters in our area, so their children could go to Harrison. I sit in the back parking lot waiting for my grandson to come out, and every day I see 2 cars with Illinois license plates picking up students. I'm going to try and get their license plate numbers if they ever slow down enough going past me. We are forgetting the people who have bought homes behind Harrison School for the sole purpose of their children attending Harrison. I don't understand the rationale of our children being bused out of their district when they live right behind the school, and most of them walk. How much is it going to cost the district to bus them? Is that not an issue? Think about it. Busing, walking. I think you need to reevaluate your thoughts on this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pat. Next is Polly Emmert.
Hi there. My name is Polly Emmert, and my family lives at 1110 West 60th Street. I have two children, a son who will be a junior at North next year and a daughter who will be a freshman. They both attended Harrison Elementary and Wood Intermediate, and through the years, their core group of friends have been and still are kids they went to Harrison Elementary with. With this proposed boundary change, our neighborhood will be split. Families will not have the chance to have the common bond of an elementary school. We have met and formed lifelong friendships with many families to the south of us due to the fact that our children attended the same neighborhood elementary school. Every young family in our neighborhood deserves this privilege. My neighbors and I are also very concerned about the proposed boundary changes and how it will affect enrollment at Wood Intermediate and North High School. If this boundary change goes through, the families affected say they will open enroll out of the Davenport School District at the elementary level or move. And we are positive they will not come back to Wood or North. As I am sure you are all aware, North is struggling with open enrollment of students to other schools, and this surely will hurt enrollment in the future. We will lose countless families who have been and will be passionate about supporting Harrison, Wood, and North. Please do not let this go through for the sake of our children, our families, and all of our neighborhood schools.
Thank you, Polly. Next is Rebecca Muhammad.
My name is Rebecca Muhammad. I live at 1008 West 60th Street. I'm here in regards to the Harrison boundary change as well. We understand as a family right here firsthand what it is to suffer moving into a neighborhood and not being able to attend your local school. We moved here 2.5 years ago. My husband and I actually lived in Davenport prior to having children. With his work, we had the opportunity to come back, and when we moved back, we knew exactly where we wanted to live, and that was the Harrison School District. At that time, we had school-age kids. We made concessions on our home that we chose to purchase because there wasn't a lot of homes for sale in the Harrison School District, and we chose one that would work best for our family. We moved in there, had no idea that my daughter would not be able to attend Harrison that year. We specifically moved up over spring break so that she would have a couple months to get to know kids in the school, to get to meet some of her neighbors so we could have a fun summer hanging out. I stay home, my husband works. Appalled, I had to drive her to Wilson every day, to and from Wilson, for her to go to school that year. And my kids are very involved in sports activities as well. My husband and I coach every one of their teams. That's basketball, that's softball, that's soccer, anything. We coach it. Multiple sports, multiple seasons, same time. We are involved parents. Unfortunately, at that younger level, a lot of times they're grouped together by kids from their school. So that meant the extracurricular time was also spent with kids that were not in her neighborhood. It killed her. It was so hard to watch kids walking past our house and not know, why can't she go to school with those kids? Those are my neighbors, Mom. I want to meet them. I want to know them. I want to play with them. You know, we were a victim of the open enrollment. Eventually, we did get into Harrison with a push and a shove and some changes that were done. You know, we got in there. We love being at Harrison. That's where we wanted to be. That's where we need to be. You guys have a great slogan. It says, what if? What if you move your boundary a couple more blocks north? What if you leave our neighborhood alone? What if you let the kids and the families that live there stay there? And what if you choose to maybe listen to some of the other options that were given to you tonight and see if one of those would be a better option in regards to Harrison's boundary? Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. That concludes our open forum for tonight. I want to say on behalf of the board, thank you to all of you for being here, those of you in the audience for listening, those of you that have been passionate and have advocated your positions. All of your words and your thoughts are very, very important to the board. We really appreciate all of them. I wanted to say a special thanks to Bailey. And I don't know if that's you back there in the back, Bailey. I thought you did just a great job up here, and I wanted to say a special thanks to you. All right, with that, we'll move on to, I wanted to say one other thing. We did receive several petitions, and those are with the board secretary, and those will be distributed later on. Oh, yes, thank you very much. Yeah, before we move on, I would like to recognize our 3 central students. And before we get there, one of the things that I failed to properly do, and we've already lost a couple of students, was to see what your next steps were. And Brandon, you told us that you're moving on to Black Hawk, and I don't even recall. Can you tell us a little bit more? Okay, for baseball scholarship. And what I'd like to do before I get to the central students, Aubrey and Chloe, if you would tell us a little bit about what your plans are after leaving high school, and then we'll go on to Carolyn, Isaac, and Anna, and I'll be asking you for your thoughts while on the board, what you've done, and also what you're going to plan to do, and then we'll give you each a certificate of appreciation. Aubrey?
Okay, I'm going to be attending Cornell College in next fall, and possibly either majoring in political science or history. I have not decided which yet, but those are generally my 2 good topics, so that's what I was thinking.
I will be attending the University of Iowa, and I will be majoring in nursing and minoring in music.
Sorry we were late. We were at our honors ceremony for seniors. But I am attending the University of Southern California, and I am majoring in international business.
I'll be attending the University of Iowa on an ROTC scholarship, and I want to major in music education.
I will be attending Iowa State University in the fall and majoring in political science.
Now, Anna and Isaac and Carolyn, is there anything else that you would want to say about either your time here, recommendations for things that we might do a little bit better, anything like that?
I really liked being a part of this, obviously. I mean, I definitely tried to make it to all the meetings that I could. I think I missed 2 total. This was an awesome experience. Even though I don't plan on going into like the educational field, this was definitely a good way to, I don't know, experience that, even though I don't plan on pursuing it in the future. It gives me an idea of what the meeting atmosphere is like, and I enjoyed coming to just like the professional atmosphere of being in this meeting room, and it was an honor to be chosen as a school board representative. I would say that having a different avenue of sharing our opinions would be welcome. We all have something to say about all of these things, and I know that so do all the community members as well, but I think that having an opportunity to share how we feel, maybe not even in front of everybody during a meeting, but maybe meeting with Dr. Tate before or after the meeting and kind of sharing our own perspective on just the different topics that are discussed and even the things that the community members bring up in open forum would be productive. So I think that all of us would have liked to share more than what we did. So, but no, this was great. So thank you for having me this year, and good luck.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun for me too. This has been kind of I guess I picked a good year to be a part of this because everything that we've kind of talked about has kind of hit home with me. I'm an open transfer student to Central, so the boundary thing has always been kind of a big thing with me. I guess things that I've noticed from the board. I think like the whole board could honestly do a better job of kind of thinking outside the box. I think when it comes to like boundaries and whatnot, we're arguing over rectangles when there's more shapes to the geographic spectrum than rectangles. You can curve around communities, you can bend and stretch and figure out where people need to go instead of rectangles. I don't think we live in Whoville. I think that's something that I've kind of noticed the board. It's always been yes or no instead of maybe this option or maybe this option or maybe this option. I think that's what people want, is they don't want you to hand them things. They want opportunities and options. So I think that's just been kind of my perspective on things, and thanks for having me.
I guess what I can say from this experience is mostly that I would not want to have your job. I think that there's a lot of pressure and a lot of important decisions, but I've definitely loved being able to come when I don't have tennis, and I've loved being able to be informed and kind of know what's going on. Like, I know Anna and I, our friends, will say, well, what's going on with this right now? What's happening with this? And we're able to tell them, and I think that that's kind of fun. And I would echo Anna on just maybe a different avenue of sharing our opinions, but otherwise I think that this was a really great opportunity, and thank you for having me.
Okay, before we make the presentations of the certificates, are there any comments by the board? Director Kluhl?
I just hope that all of you will consider coming back to talk to us and new student school board members sometime next year. You were unfortunately, I think, all gone. I think maybe Andre was here when Nick De La Cruz was here, a former student school board member, and talked to us. But it's always good, I think, for us. It's good for us board members to hear from you on that side of the table and your thoughts. And even if you didn't tell them directly to us, but talk to Dr. Tate about them, that stuff gets through to us. But it's also good, I think, in terms of time, temporally, to have you come back. You're going to experience a whole lot of new things. It's going to be a dynamic time in your life now as you're going off to school. If you will come back and talk to us and student school board members about the change that has happened, the perspective that you see now is going to be different than you see a year from now, dramatically different. So if you would share that with us, it would be a learning experience for us and for new student school board members. So I hope you'll keep that in mind.
Thank you. Anybody else? Director Robertson?
One thing I'd like to say to all of you guys, and some were here earlier, and you guys just came in from Central, wherever you go, consider service to the community that you live in. I think it's the greatest gift that you can give. And I also like to remind people that, it's free. I mean, it's not something that you get paid for. It's something that you give from here. So I would ask that wherever you guys go, give back to your community. Hopefully that from coming to school board and all the other things you have done in your high school, that you picked up on, and that it's a great way to live your life. Thank you, and the very best to all of you.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll get on with it. Carolyn, you want to come on up? You just have a certificate of appreciation for the work that you've done. We really, really appreciate everything you've done here, your time and everything. So
Thank
you. Very
you.
much, Carolyn. Appreciate all the time, everything you've done here, your comments. Thank you very much for your service. Anna, thank you very much for everything you've done. Appreciate it. I know it's been kind of a long meeting already, but it's been a great meeting. We've had an opportunity to recognize our school board members, and you guys really have done an outstanding job. The board talked earlier, and in fact, Director Kluhl said he was 5 times as old as you guys, and I figured he must have gone to a different school than the Davenport schools. But anyway, I did want to remind all of you students, we'd appreciate if you'd take your nameplate with you into the little stand as well when you leave. You rethought that. You can comment on it later. We'll move on to other business. Is there a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Mr. President.
Director Crumwitty.
I move the consent agenda as presented by the administration.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
Director Robertson.
Yes.
Director DeFow.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Zamora.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Is there a motion regarding approval of bills?
Mr. President.
Director Kluhl.
I move that the board approve the following resolution as recommended by administration. Resolution is as follows. Resolved that all claims presented to the board, having been duly certified as correct by the Secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the Treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods April 18, 2013 through May 8, 2013 with the following voided checks. Those being checks number 306386 payable to Iowa Public Procurement in the amount of $30 due to staff not attending. They were good enough to give us our money back on that deal. And check number 306519 payable to River Trails Transit Lines in the amount of $132.25, that being the wrong vendor. And check number 306601 payable to Western Illinois University in the amount of $55, again due to staff not attending.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Zamora.
Yes.
Director DeFow.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
Director Robertson.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Superintendent report.
Just one announcement. In April, I went to the Scott County Family YMCA annual dinner, and on your behalf, I received the Y Community Partnership Award, Davenport Community School Districts 2013, and this is it. It was a very nice presentation and certainly recognized the great partnership we have with the YMCA. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any comments for the superintendent? Okay, we'll move on to other items requiring action. May I have a motion regarding the plans and specifications for secured entrance remodeling projects at Smart, Sudlow, Buffalo, Garfield, and Hayes?
Mr. President,
Director Zamora.
I recommend we approve the plans and specifications as presented for secured entrances remodeling project at Smart and Sudlow Intermediate and Buffalo, Garfield, and Hayes Elementary Schools.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We will now hold a public hearing on the proposed project as published in the Quad City Times on Friday, May 3rd, 2013. Anyone wishing to speak on this project, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Is there any additional discussion on this matter? We'll call for the vote. Director Zamora?
Yes.
Director Robertson?
Yes.
Director DeFow?
Yes.
Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Sherwood?
Yes.
Director Crumwitty?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. We will now hold, and this is not subject to a motion. We're simply going to hold a public hearing. We will now hold a public hearing on the proposal to transfer real estate. Notice of this public hearing and legal description of the property was published in the Quad City Times on April 29th, 2013. Anyone wishing to speak on this topic, please step forward to the microphone. State your name and address for the record. Seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. We'll move on to the adoption of real estate for transfer. I'm sorry, the adoption of a resolution for transfer of real estate. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director Kluhl.
I move that the board approve the resolution as follows. Whereas Davenport Community School District is the owner of certain real estate in Davenport, Iowa, and more particularly described on Exhibit A attached hereto, and whereas Davenport Community School District has submitted a proposal to transfer said property to the City of Davenport, and whereas Davenport Community School District has held a public hearing on the proposed transfer of real estate pursuant to Iowa Code Section 297.22, now therefore, the Board of Directors of the Davenport Community School District in this County of Scott, State of Iowa, hereby adopt the following resolution. Resolved that the Davenport Community School District shall transfer the real estate above described to the City of Davenport without consideration. Further resolved that the President and Secretary are hereby directed to execute and deliver a quitclaim deed to the City of Davenport and to take such other and further actions as are necessary or desirable to consummate the transactions contemplated thereunder.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? We'll call for the vote. Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Zamora.
Yes.
Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
Director Robertson.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion regarding approval of the district-developed special education plan?
Mr. President,
Director Crumwitty.
I move the administration's recommendation that the board approve the district-developed special education service delivery plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
Director Robertson.
Yes.
Director Zamora.
No.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion regarding approval of bid for the North High tennis courts?
Mr. President,
Director Zamora.
I recommend we approve the lowest responsive bid received from Needham Excavating of Walcott in the amount of $437,780 to renovate the tennis courts at North High School.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I had a question, and it actually regarded this and at least one more of the renovations. And my question was, why did it seem like the budgeted amount was so much higher than the lowest responsive bidder? To the extent that in the other case, I think it was almost 100% over or 50% under, depending on how you look at it. But there had to be something going on for those budgeted amounts to be that far off.
This one is not as far off based on the amount of money. It is $140,000 less, but we had good competition. We had some new players that came in, and they're eager for the work on the tennis courts. The other one, if you remember during our conversation, was really there's a lot of unknowns, or there were a lot of unknowns at the time it went out for bid. So we weren't sure. We erred on the high side to make sure that we would have enough. I think they've done enough due diligence on the project with the engineers and also the contractors that they feel comfortable with their bid. A lot of them were lower than what the estimated cost was.
They were, and I guess I always like that. It's just that it seems
out of line.
Just a little bit, but I was just curious why. Is there any other discussion? We'll call for the vote. Director Zamora?
Yes.
Director DeFau?
Yes.
Director Robertson?
Yes.
Director Sherwood?
Yes.
Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Crumwitty?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding Approval of bid for the Sudlow 1963 edition wall repairs and renovations.
Mr. President,
Director Sherwood?
I move the board to accept the recommendation of the board to approve the lowest responsive bid received from TNT Tuck Pointing and Building Restoration LLC in the amount of $199,100 for the Sudlow 1963 edition wall repairs and renovation project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Sherwood?
Yes.
Director Robertson?
Yes.
Director Zamora?
Yes.
Director DeFile?
Yes.
Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Crumwitty?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of textbook adoptions?
Mr. President,
Director Crumwitty.
I move the administration's recommendation that the board approve the adoption of the following textbooks: AP Statistics, AP Government and Politics, AP Human Geography, World Studies, French 3 and 4, Elementary General Music, English 2, Honors English 2, Child Development and Parenting, Construction Technology 1, 2, and 3, Principles of Accounting, AP Physics.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. President?
Director Kluhl.
A long time ago, when I was taking my kids to St. Ambrose University for events, they had a group called Stamjova, and it was their jazz vocal group. And they did this song called Triangle Man. Triangle Man, Triangle Man. He was living in a circular world, and he had a hard time fitting in. So I'm reflecting on Director Anderson's comment about stepping outside the box and thinking about thinking differently. And so I have a question. And all that has come to a question, of course. And that's in regards to textbooks on government and politics and world studies. World studies being a fairly large line item. I'm just wondering what we're doing in terms of trying to move away from hardbound textbooks for these issues which change on a very regular basis. I think it's important that we move in that direction. I think it's important for our students to be hooked up with technology and get the most recent events. And for heaven's sakes, I mean, I think world studies is such a dynamic issue that to try to contain that inside a hardbound textbook must be incredibly hard. So my question is, what kind of support do we have with these textbooks that will keep our students up to date on world politics and world studies in general?
If I may, all of nowadays adoptions really do come with a lot of technology associated with them. Many of these books have parts or the book online as well that the students can access. There's resources for smart boards, interactive technology that is associated. So now an adoption isn't just a book. There's a lot more that goes with it. We really try to stay up on, for example, world studies. We'll supplement as time goes on because you're always looking at what's going on in the world. So you constantly have to bring in new resources from outside of the textbook.
The largest part of that line item for world studies is probably the textbook, though?
I did not bring that up with me.
It was $103,000.
They'll frequently the textbook is what you pay for, and then they put in a lot of the technology as free.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm just wondering if student school board members have any thoughts on textbooks, their availability, and the use of internet technology and other technologies to try to keep up to date on issues. Do you feel, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm going to stop right there.
I guess I would kind of like to see us maybe moving more towards more technology-oriented stuff, being able to find stuff on the computer, because for us, the world is constantly changing. And I do have a lot of classes where the textbooks sit. We don't use them a whole lot because we have computer access. It's a lot easier. and there's a lot more information available in our computers than there is in the textbook. I mean, I don't want to badmouth textbooks too bad because I'm kind of a nerd, and in my government class I read my textbook for pleasure. But I do think that you just kind of have to move forward and figure out, and technology is probably in the long run cost saving, just because the textbook is hardbound. It's always going to be the same thing in that textbook, but you can constantly get new stuff on a computer. I mean, for Iowa, they told me that a laptop is almost mandatory. You will not get through college without a laptop. And I bought a laptop, and it's been a great thing for me. Even with high school, it's a lot easier to type papers on, a lot easier to find information on. So I think moving towards, one, providing technology, and also allowing kids to use technology that they have. If I could bring my laptop to school, I'd be the happiest camper on the planet. But I think that you should probably look towards the future with what technology can bring you.
Thank you.
I agree that technology is definitely changing. It's a little scary because my teacher and I were just talking about this, and she was saying they're going to get rid of teachers one of these days and just have apps for a class, and it was funny, but which would be scary. But I will say that my AP class that I took this year, which was very difficult, we had to read our textbook a lot, and it came in handy, and it had everything on the test. And I guess world studies is a totally different subject, but for certain things, like, I definitely appreciate the textbook. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know from debate just how much things change in a very short period of time, especially with the certain subjects that were referenced, world studies and politics. Those two are probably some of the most changing things. I mean, as she just pointed out, I mean, there are some subjects where there's not going to be a lot of variance. So textbooks, having the textbook there can be very helpful. And I mean, as everyone knows, technology is advancing far more than we could think. So, yeah, I think that going to a more technological thing, at least for these ones, I mean, even just being able to have the internet more for these classes, if that's possible, like being so that we are up to date and know what's going on. Because I know a lot of kids, they don't know what's going on because they're not given the up to date, or really don't have the interest to find out, okay, what's going on, especially with like world studies and politics. So I do think that is a very good issue.
Thank you. Julie, do you think that the study guides really move the teachers forward in terms of using internet technology, or is that just something that, well, if I'm studying, the difference between North Vietnam and South Vietnam, well, I know what I'll do. I'll Google it. Is the study guide there helping teachers to use the curricula, or is it something that is really independent in terms of research?
We, as far as our courses are concerned, they're basically aligned with the Iowa standards, core standards, for in the 4 areas of social studies, science, math, and language arts. For AP, those courses are all aligned with the College Board and what they consider appropriate curriculum for those courses. Our courses that are such as construction technology and child development, those are aligned with the trades and with current thinking in child development. So when a teacher is teaching, they're using the book as a resource, but the curriculum is what they follow, and that's based on the standards.
Okay. Thank you. I hope that that we'll take some heed from what our student school board members have said in terms of reaching out technologically, and I hope also that our policy committee will, in terms of technology use in the classroom, will consider the thoughts that we've heard tonight as well.
We would embrace the access for students to have more technology.
Thanks for saying that.
Director Sherwood.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that point, we have a district that's 62% free and reduced lunch. So there's an assumption that a lot of kids can't afford technology, they can't afford access to the internet at home, and that they have other priorities for those dollars. So until we solve that problem, we have to use older technology, in this case textbooks, to reach all of these kids and give them access to our curriculum. Are you guys thinking right now in terms of blending this, though? Are some of our kids able to use e-textbooks if they have the technology available to them?
I honestly could not answer that for every one of these courses, but some of them do have e-technology associated with them, but that's always a licensing issue, so we don't right now buy the e-license for the textbook simply because we can't guarantee access for every student.
Well, I understand that, but for those students who can access it, wouldn't that save us some bucks if we knew who those kids were? And I don't know how we do that exactly, but that access fee has to be cheaper than the hardbound textbook, I would guess.
It is cheaper. It's not as much cheaper as you might think it would be because it's a licensing issue. But we have to be equitable in our what we provide for students, and so if we have a great number of students that don't have any kind of access to technology to do their work, it's not equitable to give some kids the e-technology and not all.
Well, when I say e-technology, I'm talking about the book itself, an e-edition of the book. So if a kid's got a printed book or an e-book, it's the same book. And if we can get that book to those kids who have technology, you're familiar with the concept of bringing your own technology. Those districts that have kids bring their own technology. If we can take advantage of that to reduce our textbook costs, it would seem to me sensible to do that.
If we ever get to the point in this district where kids are going to be bringing their own technology, we could certainly look into that. It's the equity and the kids being able to bring their own technology that are both issues.
Okay, thank you.
Director Crumwitty.
Thank you, Mr. President. Julie, first of all, thank you for clarifying addressing the standards in the Iowa Core. That's always my question, making sure that that is happening.
That's what we're working on,
And
yes.
my second, it's not really a question, just for the public's information, to make sure that they understand the process, just simply in a few words, can you tell us how these recommendations are made?
Sure. We know several years in advance when a certain area is going to be up for adoption, and so the committee begins in a very small way with the curriculum councils, and they start to look at what's the current research, what are the standards that we need to be teaching our students, and then as they get closer to the actual time to make a selection, usually about 2 years in advance. In the case of this music, it was probably 3 years in advance. They begin the process of looking at various materials. They'll use rubrics to score the materials. Parents and teachers make up the committee, and then they go through that process and decide which of these materials best fits what it is that we're trying to teach.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? We'll call for the vote. Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
Director Zamora.
Yes.
Director DeFow.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Robertson.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding Early Childhood Transportation Award?
Mr. President,
Director Kluhl.
move that the board approve the administration's recommendation on the approval of Durham School Services to provide early childhood transportation for the 2013-2014 school year in the amount of $586,927.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Sherwood.
Yeah, Mr. President, most of my concerns were addressed in our council's communications. But there was a new hiccup here tonight I hadn't thought about, and that's this change in our year-round programming to more limited programming. I'd like to ask Dr. Tate how that's handled exactly. Is that you negotiate that separately underneath the existing contract if we approve this, or how's that work?
Marcia, do you have any thoughts on the change as based on the RFP that we have?
We would talk with the vendor that's being recommended for any type of amendment to the calendar that we would be proposing.
I guess my thought is that things are going to come up that are different from an RFP. You put out that and you have people bid on the exact same quality and quantity that you're looking for, and then again, things are going to come up to change. So,
yeah, I agree. Thanks.
Any other discussion? We'll call for the vote. Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Sherwood?
Yes.
Director DeFile?
Yes.
Director Crumwitty?
Yes.
Director Robertson?
Yes.
Director Zamora?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval for purchase of radios?
Mr. President,
Director Kluhl?
I move that the board approve the administration's recommendation on the purchase of radios from the City of Davenport using a 28E intergovernmental agreement between the Davenport Community School District and the City of Davenport in the amount of $336,872.60.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Sherwood.
I have several questions for Scott. Now, I understand the logic of tying this into police radios, but this is going to cost us $7 a radio per month?
Per month.
Yeah. And so it ends up being over $40,000 a year in additional cost as an ongoing cost for this?
It is an ongoing cost. Currently, we pay $5 per radio, and we have ever since the system came into existence. So this is a $2 increase.
So our current radios that we have in the district now are already tied into this at $5 a month?
No, this is through a different company and system. We do pay $5 a month for each radio now that we currently have.
I see. So it's a $2 increase over that.
Yes.
And this will give us immediate access to police channels. Is that correct? Now, can they monitor our interactions at any time they want to monitor them, or how's that work?
I have Mr. Henry, the City of Davenport Technology Director here, I believe. Did see him come in among all the people.
Away.
And also Mike Hauser from CEC Electronics.
Okay.
They're more, if there's technical questions or anything, that would be a better question for them, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
Certainly, thank you. My name is Rob Henry. I'm the Chief Information Officer for the City of Davenport. To answer your question, that is one of the advantages, is that we have the ability to connect the two radio systems. So the city still currently has a public safety system, as you're aware of, with the Scott County Communications Center. This is obviously a separate system, but because of its design, it would allow us to interconnect those two systems and provide some of those functionalities. The other thing that, and I know Scott was kind of addressing the increase in the fees, one huge advantage, I think, for the school district in this would be that this system is also going to have the data capability, which I don't believe you currently have right now. So that's going to allow you to do some of the other things I know that Scott has talked about being able to do with some of the GPS and tracking of the buses and those kind of routes. So so we're very excited about being able to allow that partnership and that cost savings compared to if you had to go out and do this through another independent party.
And here's my concern. At the Eisenhower meeting, Scott mentioned this first time I'd heard it, that our new cameras are going to be also be able to be linked and monitored by the police department. Is that correct?
That is being worked on. That is independent of this particular proposal, but that is something that we are working on with Scott. Yes.
So here's my concern, and it's raised when we talked about the cameras, about the issue of privacy and confidentiality. how do we separate these systems so that we have an autonomous system that it's up to our discretion whether or not you folks are able to monitor these things?
Yeah, I mean, technically that's all possible, and that's exactly how it would be configured and set up. So the handshake, if you would, in a case of an emergency or a disaster, would simply be managed by you to decide when you want to allow that to happen.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you.
You bet.
Any additional discussion? Director Kluhl?
Just a note of appreciation for collaborating with the city on this to get a better deal for all of us.
Any additional discussion? We'll call for the vote. Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Zamora? Yes. Director DeFau?
Yes.
Director Crumwitty?
Yes.
Director Robertson stepped away, so there will be no vote. That's not a no vote by Director Robertson. But I will indicate that he did not vote. Director Sherwood?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding requiring superintendent to provide a plan to study outsourcing?
Mr. President, I move the administration recommendation that the superintendent provide a plan for studying the availability of outsourcing services and support at the May 28th, 2013 board meeting, at which time the board of directors will decide whether or not to proceed with the study plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Zamora?
Yeah, I just wanted to say so that I'm very clear, I don't approve of outsourcing for all of the reasons that have been given to us time and again, and I will vote no every time.
Director Sherwood?
Mr. President, I want to echo Ms. Pat's statement. It would take a terrible situation before I would consider outsourcing, not only for all the reasons you've heard tonight, but the fact that we diminish the relationship of the employee to the district. We, in fact, contribute to the declining earning power of the American middle class when we do these sorts of things. And we have a bigger responsibility. These are families. These are kids that go to our school. We hurt their earning power. We hurt their ability to provide for their kids, and I will not be part of that.
Is there any other discussion? Director Crumwitty?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I, too, echo my colleagues' comments, and I've shared this before. I'm very opposed to outsourcing these folks who have spent years, many of them years in our district, and I think we've heard over and over and over again about what they do and how dedicated they are to our district. We also heard from Mr. Kruger tonight that this has been studied in the past. We also heard from him that, you know, why don't we have more districts throughout the state of Iowa doing this if this is a huge savings? So with all that information that we received for weeks and weeks and weeks, absolutely not. I'm opposed to outsourcing any of these groups.
Is there any additional discussion? Director DeFau?
For the audience's sake and for clarity, this is not a vote to outsource. This is a vote to engage in a plan to determine whether or not we should study outsourcing. So this is a vote to plan to make a plan, basically. I always advocate for informed decisions. And while I share several of the sentiments that have been presented at the table, and while I agree that the groups that are being slated for consideration are very valuable assets to this district. Make no mistake. I do think we need to make an informed decision. The only way we can do that is to evaluate it. That being said, I'm really tired of wasting time, and it feels like we've been wasting a lot of time of late. And so if we truly have 3 members of this board that are completely unwilling to consider the possibility of outsourcing, then I'm willing to amend the motion that the board move that we not consider outsourcing. Consider that a motion.
Second.
So you, if I'm understanding your motion to amend properly, you're moving that the amendment would be, this would require the superintendent to either not provide a plan or to provide a plan to not study outsourcing. How would you
The
word
plan
that?
would be, the motion is that we take outsourcing off the table and not consider it, period. Because if we're not going to make an informed decision, I would opt for no decision. So,
All right. Okay, I'll accept that as an amendment, and it's been seconded by Director Zamora. Let me just write this down. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, Director Kluhl, did you have some?
Yeah, we hadn't quite gotten around the table yet in terms of discussion. Just in terms of background, I informed decisions. We need to make them. And for that reason, I hate to concur with this motion. The Department of Education has said within the next 2 years, at current revenue and expenditures, we're going to have a negative unspent balance. That's pretty serious. And I think we need to look at everything that we possibly can to make that happen, because frankly, I don't know where we're going to find that money in the next 3 years. I don't know. I don't know. But I think perhaps the board could have been more clear. The RAC, I think, did a good job for the board in providing us with information. The RAC also indicated the Resource Allocation Committee that Dr. Tate convened provided some real good information, but one of the things that they suggested is that we consider looking at boundaries every year. Well, I think the board knew right away that we weren't going to look at boundaries every year, but it was input from that committee of people. I think with outsourcing, this got away from us. I think that perhaps we could have kept this in the barn, but since the Resource Allocation Committee had given it as a recommendation, we went out with it in terms of trying to be open with disclosure. Perhaps we could have been more careful about that, but we didn't, and here we are today. And as I see it right now, with the signs going up in the area, and Dave, presenting every meeting that we've had, and Sally, and the signs going up, it's just the sword of Damocles is hanging over the lives of these people. And I think it would be wrong for this board to continue that. But I have been thinking about what we might do in lieu of that. And the custodial bargaining group has been at the lead in terms of thinking out of the box. They've been thinking about what's called interest-based bargaining. And I would like to honor that. And I would hope that, as Ty said, perhaps if it's a joint labor management committee or whatever it is, that the custodial bargaining group could be at the lead in our district for thinking outside the box and thinking how we might work together in terms of what's in the interest of all students. Because right now, the way things work with our bargaining groups, they come in and we have an administrative point of view and we have a bargaining group point of view. And it's kind of like you have a battle that ensues. We have our ammunition, these folks have their ammunition, they come together and do battle. It doesn't have to be that way. And the custodial bargaining group has talked with us about that. It doesn't have to be that way, the way that we've always done it, Isaac. We can look at what we have in terms of resources and decide together what's the best thing we can do for our students. So I'm willing to concur with this because I lived through outsourcing with the Department of Defense, and it has never come to good purposes in the long run. West Des Moines, I believe, has tried it and came back, and you never want to get into a situation where you contract out and then say, whoops. So I wanted to explain my position and how I got to this determination, but if this motion, this amendment does get approved, I hope that we will take action to work with the custodial bargaining group on an effort to try to get interest-based bargaining going in this district. It's time, and it's an opportunity.
Is there any other, Director Robertson?
Having been on all the negotiation teams, working closely with people and bargaining, no one at this table probably feels as close to all of the groups as I did, day after day, sitting down, year after year. But when I look at Jay and I look at the proposal, it didn't say that it was going to be outsourced. My hope coming out of this was that it would create a togetherness, that part of that would be that the administration and the different groups would sit down and say, here's what we can do so that we don't have to take these jobs out of the district. That's what I was hoping that was going to come out of this recommendation. This is not a recommendation to outsource. It's a recommendation to take a look. And I think that brings people together. And when we have the difficulties facing us in this district in terms of finance, and we talked about at this board table of looking at everything, and then today we talk about, well, we can't look at everything. I don't know how we can look at anything if we can't draw a conclusion that this is about having a great conversation and about bringing groups together and say, okay, here is what we need to do in order for us to be a good school district and in order for these jobs to stay in. To me, that's what I thought this was going to be all about. It wasn't about this was a definitive outsourcing. This was saying, hey, let's take a look and see what's out there. And we don't compare ourselves to other districts. Because they fail doesn't mean that we will fail, and because they did it doesn't mean that we will. So I'm really disappointed in that we have decided that we can't have a great conversation. I think that if Ty is still in the room, I think we started off having that great conversation, and I was hoping that part of this would end up being that great conversation. And I think it would make everybody closer. I think it would give a great understanding that this was about team. I saw that starting to come out. But I also have to understand is that there were a lot of things that were on the table that probably drove this process to being a tight-knit group in the negotiation process because we didn't have money. And we're not going to have money. And it's really scary to think about, in the end, I don't know where we're going to get money from. So, with that, I'm disappointed that we decided not to take a look at this and ask those groups to come as a district to see what we could do. I'm disappointed that we didn't do that.
Is there any additional discussion? I want to say a few words. Frankly, I wasn't quite sure what Director Kluhl's words meant relative to the amendment. but when I look at this, and I have to say that I strongly oppose the amendment. I believe that the amendment is wrong in that it requires us to not even have an opportunity to look at outsourcing. And I think to take that off the table, when I think about what the board has done during this past year with respect to budget, and when I think about our discussion on walk zones, on busing, on block scheduling versus traditional scheduling, there have been a lot of things that the board has discussed and said, no, we won't do that. At the same time, the board is trying to find $15 million. And the board finds a lot of that in some of the reserves that it has, or that the district has. I too thought about looking outside the box, and I thought a lot about Ty's remarks on interest-based bargaining. And my hope was more that there might be an amendment that required the superintendent to provide a plan to study outsourcing that included consideration of interest-based bargaining. Anyway, we're going to vote on this amendment very shortly. I will vote no on the amendment. The amendment is to require the superintendent to not study outsourcing. Is that correct? The intent?
The intent is to remove outsourcing as a subject of conversation, as a means of reducing the budget, period.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Director Zamora.
I just want to remind us of the sword of Damocles that would go on talking and talking. We need to put some finality on this.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. The vote is with respect to the amendment. And the amendment is to remove studying outsourcing as an opportunity for discussion relative to the budget. Have I characterized that properly? It was moved by DeFau and seconded by Zamora. We'll call for the vote.
Discussion?
Director Kluhl.
May I make an amendment to the amendment?
You can try.
The amendment is written, but I would like to direct administration to study a way of working with a custodial bargaining unit to affect interest-based bargaining. And my thinking on that is that this, like I said, is an opportunity, I think, to move forward. We do have fiscal constraints, and I would prefer not to drop this altogether. And I see this as an opportunity to not just drop the idea of finding efficiencies, but to work at it with a scalpel rather than a butter knife, if that's clear.
Well, I guess let me try to understand it. You're moving to amend the amendment to include the requirement that the administration consider interest-based bargaining for those various groups, or are you limiting it to custodians?
I intended not to use the word interest-based bargaining, but some means work with the custodial bargaining unit to perhaps affect something like interest-based bargaining.
All right. And can you word that and get it to the secretary sometime tonight?
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a second to the amendment to the amendment? Seeing none, the motion to amend the amendment fails. Any other discussion on the amendment? We'll call for the vote. Director DeFau.
No.
Director Zamora.
Yes.
Director Kluel,
No.
Director Crumwitty,
Yes.
Director Robertson,
No.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
My vote is no. The motion fails, the amendment fails, and we are back at the original motion, which requires the superintendent to provide a plan to study outsourcing. The motion was made by Sherwood and seconded by DeFau. Is there any additional discussion?
Mr. President.
Director Sherwood.
I just want to stress once again, we've had employees hanging over the edge of a cliff for a long time, and from what I'm hearing, there's a majority of this board that's not going to support an outsourcing of nurses and custodians, and because we want to go through some academic exercise to make us feel better, I think we've got a lot of information already about the issues of outsourcing. We do have big budget issues that we have to deal with, and I think we have to think, I don't know if that's out of the box, we certainly have to look for other models that we can bring into the district. But to continue to have these folks not knowing if they're going to, what kind of jobs they're going to have next year and in 6 months is just, to me, just plain unfair. So I'll be voting no on this.
Any additional discussion? Director Robertson.
Yes, when we talked about the possibility of looking at outsourcing, it wasn't just custodians. So if you're going to talk about going back and doing something different, then it should be with all of the groups, not just say that we're going to do with custodians. It should be about with the nurses and all of the other people that we are talking about. So.
It says services and support.
Any additional discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Director Zamora.
This motion covers everybody we were talking about, not just custodians.
Right, but the conversation's been
Right.
going on around this table, just talked about custodian. I never heard anybody else's name.
But the motion covers services and support.
Right. Yep. Thank you for clarifying that. Additional discussion? Director Crumwitty.
Yes. Once again, I heard again tonight that these groups are willing to sit down and have conversation about savings, and I would hope that we would take advantage of that prior to studying any type of outsourcing of those groups. So they are open to do that. I would hope that our administration would be willing to sit down and have those conversations, and just maybe we can come up with a better way to do it than outsourcing.
So you making a motion?
My question.
Okay, thank you. Any additional discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director Sherwood.
No.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Kluel.
No.
Director Zamora.
No.
Director Crumwitty.
No.
Director Robertson.
Yes.
My vote is yes. The motion fails, and
It passed.
no, the motion fails. There were 4 noes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The noes were Kluel, Zamora, Crumwitty, Sherwood.
I was thinking of the motion backwards.
Okay. And so the motion fails, so there will not be a requirement for the superintendent to provide a plan to study outsourcing. We'll move on to discussion. This 4-hour monthly workshop for board members has been on the agenda for quite some time, and I know it seems like it comes up late in the evening, but Bill, I think it's important to get it off the agenda one way or the other. Could you go ahead and talk for a few minutes about what this is, or do you want to have it deferred again?
No, I think you're right. I think that it's pretty self-apparent what it is. It is an opportunity to build into our schedule the routine of being able to focus on an issue or perhaps several issues, depending on what this board decides, but in depth, so that we're talking about working out of the box one of the things I want to look at in depth is K-8s and how that could seriously impact the finances of this district and how we structure our educational program. And I would like the opportunity to bring folks in to talk about that, to present research to this board, and have an in-depth discussion. And we, as it is, we don't have anything like that as a routine matter. We can call work sessions. We can do that, but that's since I've been on the board, I think we've had 2 in a year and a half. So there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of issues to be addressed, and I think having a routine 4 hours a month that we have that opportunity may help us all to begin to think more creatively. So that's about it.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Director Zamora.
Yeah, I think it's a bad idea. We have committee of the whole. We spend a lot of hours already. All we're going to do is sit and talk and talk and talk about the same things that we'll talk and talk and talk again at the committee of the whole, and then we'll talk and talk again at the regular meeting. And I think we cover stuff very well now, and if we need more, we just have more at the committee of the whole.
Any additional discussion? Director DeFau.
Yeah, and those are 4 hours that I would spend in my students' buildings volunteering. As the only board member that has current students in the school district, I spend a lot of time in the buildings in addition to the time I spend at the board table. And I agree with Pat that if we need to increase the amount of time we spend at committee of the whole, I'm fully supportive of that. But I don't have another evening to spare another 4 hours.
Director Kluhl.
Director Sherwood, how would you create the agenda? What would the topics be?
Well, that's one of the questions that's come up, and that would we'd have to work that out. We'd have to figure out the nuances of this, but I have no doubt that they're going to be interested in filling it up. It's just a matter of how we do that, whether or not we appoint the president appoints a small group to figure those things out. However we want to do that, but that it's available would be important to me.
Any additional discussion?
Just one last comment.
Sure, Director Sherwood.
As far as using the committee of the whole and so forth, my recollection, we don't have to look back very far, where we had members who were beating at the table to get out of the room because we spent so many hours at committee of the whole. So if there is a lot of time available there, I'm unaware of it.
Any additional discussion? Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up. I haven't heard a real consensus by the board for or against. Gesundheit.
Is that a yes or no?
All right, we'll move on to administrative reports.
I have none, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are there any board reports or requests? Director Sherwood.
Several things. Went to the science fair at the city garage, and I'd like to commend all the schools that participated in that. Very impressive stuff. If you have any question about our science curriculum, you just need to stop by. They're doing a lot of neat things. They even had a working wind generator, which I thought was really cool, run by a box fan, which was kind of neat. I went to the volunteer recognition dinner down at the River Center for the city and the school district. Our guys were well represented, and that was also very impressive. Tens of thousands of hours of volunteers in the community and in our district, and it was neat to see their recognition. Several of us went to the retirement dinner and the recognition of employees, and as always, Norm and those guys did a wonderful job with that, and that was a pleasure, although it's sad to see a lot of old friends leaving. Went to the second-year mentoring dinner at West, and I said to someone there, if you want to see what great teachers look like, you just had to look in that room. I'll tell you what, I have questions about our mentoring program and so forth, but the quality of our mentors, I'd stack up against anybody. Those people are just terrific, and these young teachers are very, very impressive folks. And finally, I went to Mrs. Brown's class at Walcott, and we read Langston Hughes poems back and forth to each other, and it was neat to be back with kids. That was cool. Finally, I have a request. I would like a report from the Human Resources as to whether or not we have employees who are being paid salaries by us that fail to meet their basic needs as defined by the Iowa Policy Project or any other qualified agency. That is, are our lowest paid full-time workers making a living wage? I'd like that. That's it.
Thank you. Any additional board reports or requests? Director Crumwoody.
Mr. President, I do have a request. With the information that we received tonight during open forum and on Wednesday night during the forum that we held, I request that the vote on the boundary changes not be on May 28th meeting or on the agenda, and then we consider other alternatives, input, and study before any action takes place on boundary changes.
I've got to think about this a little bit and how this would be implemented because of scheduling. So I'll talk with the agenda committee.
That is to the agenda committee and to Dr. Tate.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any additional reports or requests? Director Robertson.
I went to the retirement dinner but could not stay due to my unstable work schedule. So I did say hello and thank you to a few people, but to the ones that I didn't get around to, I certainly appreciate all your years of service, and a big thank you, and I hope you enjoy your retirement. The other thing at Williams, the other night I went to the Alice presentation. I think the rain slowed it down because I got wet coming and going. I couldn't find my umbrella. So anyway, though, it was a good presentation, and for the people that came, and they liked the idea of trying to be safe.
Great. Thank you. Director DeFau.
Well, it's a bit premature because it is Chloe's last evening with us and our other student board members. I'd like to invite the community to North High School's production of I Never Saw Another Butterfly, which is going to be June 22nd. This is a dress rehearsal for their performances, 2 performances at the International Thespian Festival in Lincoln, Nebraska, which begins 2 days later, I believe. This will be a fundraiser to help them raise funds for that trip, which will cost roughly $20,000 for the students, chaperones, and the staging and equipment to get there. And they'll be hosting that twice. So Chloe has one of the leading roles. I'd encourage everyone to come out and support her.
Thank you. Director Robertson.
One thing I would like to ask the student school board members, please do not leave until I get a chance to shake your hand because I might not see you again. So, hold on.
Okay, thank you.
Leave and go elsewhere.
Anything else? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.